Welcome back to Eurozone. It's a lousy Sunday, and I wish I was at home right now, relaxing.
Yeah.
But the world is run by a pedophile elite
Cabal.
cabal,
Cabal.
who all seem to. Yeah, I'm a bit confused, honestly. I don't know if they worship Satan, if they worship Baal, if they worship some pagan god, if they're part of the Vatican conspiracy, if they're the Jesuits, if they're the Freemasons, if they're just regular old Pax Americana, almost like kind of hippies, or what the hell is going on. But one thing is for sure, we got a lot of information from these Epstein files. There is definitely a conspiracy of people committing a lot of crimes and controlling the world together as sort of friends. And I think it's too early for me to tell you exactly what the conspiracy of all conspiracies is. Who is at the top? Is it the Illuminati, the aliens, the UFOs? Look, I can't tell you for sure, but what we are going to do is go through the Epstein files, look at who's implicated, and we have some other topics as well. We're going to look at the Iran war, some of the history there, so that you don't fall for Western propaganda. And of course, we have to do a little Gaza update at the end as well. Ruben, how are you doing?
Yeah. Okay.
You're doing good?
I'm ready for spring.
You're
And for winter to be over, and we're almost there, I think. So
yeah, they really they did us dirty because now we had 2 days of good weather. So now it's gonna feel like spring is right around the corner, but then usually it takes some time still for it to arrive. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to show you quickly this video coming out of Italy because I didn't have time to. We don't have time to include this topic in this stream, but there is this video here from Milan, which is showing all of the rioters that were out yesterday and the day before. And basically, they're shooting fireworks at the hotel where the Israeli Olympic teams are staying, which I think is great.
Yep.
And they were also firing fireworks at where ICE is staying. So it's an anti-ICE, anti-Israel protest.
Because ICE is there as
Yeah,
well,
because
right?
of course the
Now,
American border security is in Milan.
yeah, the American border reaches all the way to Italy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is not even a lie, actually. So in some frustrating, ironic way, it kind of does represent the state of affairs right now, right? Which is that the American border has moved all the way to Ukraine, some would say, and definitely encompasses Italy and all of the other Central European countries. But the Italians are pissed off, as you can see here.
Well, they are setting the example, but I also notice if the Israeli Olympic team was staying in a hotel in Amsterdam, getting this close with fireworks would, I think, already be impossible.
Yeah.
And I see no police here, and they are just shooting.
So I saw other clips with the Italian police coming and like trying to push them back. But what you'll see every time with the Italian police is, first of all, they look less Gestapo because they have like these blue helmets from the 80s that don't look as scary. Also, there is no height difference between the riot police and the rioters. Like here in the Netherlands, the riot police is always twice the height of the average
because
protester.
the riot police is Dutch and the rioters are international students. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. yeah, right. No, I think
it's kind of
you guys
true,
just
but
have
yeah.
a lot of really tall people to choose from. Also, like I had to call the fire department once in this country, and the firefighters were all huge. Right?
Yeah.
In Italy, they're about the same size. They get paid the same as well, so the riot police doesn't really.
They don't feel
it's
like
not
risking
motivated.
it.
They're not motivated to do anything about it.
Could you imagine if the riot police here would be like 160? we would totally smash them. Like, oh my god,
Exactly.
So that's such a good time.
That's why I think in Italy you see these scenes. I'm gonna keep it running here for you guys. That's why in Italy you see some of these scenes where the police doesn't always clash back as hard as they do in other places. There has been some a lot of police violence and death by police in Italy, also in Milan actually. But overall, the spirit of protest continues because they don't capture all the leaders. They don't have the organized. Let's say the law is not organized enough to really, at a grassroots level, take these people out of society. So they get to do a little. They get away with more than most European
Maybe
citizens.
they also respect some of the fundamental rights than a little bit more than here, because we saw this week that the correspondent came out with a new article, investigative journalism, about the toy department in Dutch police, so TOOI. And apparently, when they come to your home for unrelated reasons, in this example, it was like for a check for fire safety, but they noticed someone had Extinction Rebellion logos and a Palestinian flag. So they put this person on the list as possibly causing a riot in the future.
Right.
So the amount of surveillance on Dutch citizens that are involved in protest or activism is, I think, maybe insanely strict and a lot, and the amount of infiltration as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? The Netherlands was one of the first countries where we got reporting around this database of potentially, or people who are likely to disturb public order.
Yeah.
And where we got stories very early on that the police were going to Palestine protests with these vans where they have equipment to pick up all the phone signals of your mobile phone, so they can register your phone number and your person as having attended a protest. And if you attend too many, or if you attend the illegal ones, then you are marked in a database. So what ICE is doing to the local Americans, which is making them rightfully very angry, has been going on in Europe for a long time, right? You can't, like, even something that we do here, right? We can't go out and speak and protest too much without the government marking us. And also, I think they use that politically as well, because then every time somebody who is in that database all of a sudden gets a position of power, for example, in a private business or in the media, or God forbid in politics, then they use their networks of influence to pressure and push that person out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was from Milan. Very quickly, I wanted to show you this video here. Let's
sneaking up to the island.
Just watch.
Every day since I've been out outside my all I know this and I want this all to be over. It's been
I just realized that there was no audio while playing. Sorry, I just wanted to show you guys this for those of you who are not in the youth movements. We're gonna storm the Epstein Island. So just like we stormed Area 51, the youth has been posting on TikTok saying that they're gonna organize a raid of the Epstein Island. I would say start with the New York mansion. That seems a lot easier. We know where the address is. You don't need a boat to get on there.
Yeah,
you can just walk up to it, and if you have enough people, maybe you can break in.
And also
get
this
some evidence.
ranch, I don't know. It's located in New Mexico, I believe.
The New Mexico ranch as well.
They should start digging there to see if they can find some bones.
Yeah, exactly. That one would be super interesting.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to include this in the main video because it's a bit of a joke, but if it turns into something real, it could be interesting. You know, the people storming these places and getting their own evidence. Sometimes that's the only way to get accountability, right? If you storm the Trump golf course or the New Mexico ranch and you find bones buried there in the golf course, then you have undeniable proof that something fishy is going on, right? So yeah, okay. The chat is still quiet for now, but hopefully people join in a second. Let me just make sure that this uploaded. Yes. Then I think we should get into this Epstein saga. Okay, so I've organized it in a way where we go, like, we do a little basic intro, and then I have basically region by region the biggest names of the people implicated, and then just a small conclusion, and that's it. So yeah, of course, feel free to comment wherever, and then I'll start recording here.
Yeah.
The Epstein files prove once and for all that all our worst fears are true. Your conspiracist uncle was underestimating the extent of the conspiracy. And a lot of people that have been called insane for the last 10 years, 20 years even, are now being vindicated. So, good news if you're a conspiracy theorist, you were right. Bad news is that you were right. So,
Yeah.
and maybe beyond right. You were so right that this goes from being something fun that you can discuss on a Friday night at 3 in the morning to now being a very real, scary system of abuse, and not only abuse but also of world dominance and control. So we're gonna dive into that and go through all of the documents that I think are the most interesting at the moment. We're gonna go region by region, the whole world round, to show you who is implicated in these files, who lives, who might be your politician or your or part of your country. Because the overall theme here, by the way, is that this is a sort of class or a group that is not divided by race, by by religion, by politics, or by anything else. You basically have the entire political establishment, all the way from the so-called left to the right. You have all the centrists, you have the monarchs, you have white men, you have Arab men, you have black men, you have also white women. You have a very diverse, DEI type of diversity and inclusion hiring model here in the global Satanist cabal, and now. And I thought that was
Satan doesn't judge. Everyone is welcome.
right.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's the first thing. Is it's crazy how divided we are day to day walking around.
Yeah.
I would say that oh, the world is rotten and it's your fault because you're a Republican, or it's your fault because you're brown, because you're Muslim, because you don't speak my language. And at the top, they all get along fine. They put the differences aside, and I wonder what it is that really glues them together. Is it just class consciousness in the sense of we are at the top, we are earning the most, and therefore we protect each other? Or is there a genuine ideology there? Is it Satanism? I don't know. Is it just the worshipping of power in general? Recognizing that, okay, I might be a lefty, or I might be a democratic president and you might be a monarch, or I might believe in Jesus and you might believe in someone else, but because we both have power, we treat each other as friends and mingle, and conspire together just because we both have power. So therefore, because we have power, we know that it's good practice to make deals with other powerful people.
There's some good argument to be made, right? That if you are powerful, there's someone else that's powerful, then, well, you can fight each other, but that could mean that you are both getting less powerful and someone else wins.
Right. So, yeah, big theme is all the divisions you thought existed and that they make us fight over and go to war over don't really exist once you get to a certain level. The higher you climb, the less barriers there are between groups. And the only thing that remains is one global elite class who love abusing their power.
You do have to wonder if it's maybe a little bit like high school as well, and there's some competing other group.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we don't kill and bang the children. We do, I don't know what they do. They do something else, but they don't fuck with that.
Yeah, it's like the mafia, right? Like, oh, those dirty Sicilians, that we might we might sell drugs and corrupt the government, and maybe once or twice I melted a family in a big pot. That's a true story, by the way.
But we don't sell women in the street.
Yeah, but we don't sell, or at least we don't sell Italian women. Like they have all these weird areas that they have.
This is a no-go. If you cross that line, you are immoral. Yeah. But they are doing some other immoral stuff.
How dare you? I believe in Jesus Christ. Like that, like the Mexican cartels, right? Yeah. That we are different from the other lawless hooligans because we have a certain form of spirituality or
Mhm.
moral code or something. Yeah.
Yeah, spirituality is, well, funny to name in this context as well, because
Yeah.
these people, they are not, they don't assign, I think, to one specific religion,
Mm-hmm.
classically, at least not most of them, but they do love to include all the spiritual and all the, how do you say, religious kind of
Yeah.
symbolism or like ceremonies.
Yeah, these are people who, I mean, first and foremost, almost everyone in the file is a descendant from a family or at least a social group
Mm-hmm.
of people that have had high status for centuries, right?
Yeah.
So these are people that are used to and very acclimated with being powerful,
Mm-hmm.
with having status in general. So I do think there's that that very relaxed, laissez-faire attitude kind of shines through in everything they do. Also in the way that they talk to each other in the emails. It's very it's honestly just a continuation of the Victorian times. You know, like
Yeah.
how the Victorians would talk to each other about, oh, the people don't have any bread. Well, then let them eat cake. You know, like that
Mhm.
sort of
Yeah.
almost like gossip. Like, did you hear what that French prime minister did and what's going on with Brexit? Like,
This is one of the things I noticed in this email conversation, that yes,
yeah,
there's some admission of horrible crimes like in between, and other than that, it seems like so much casual conversation, but really in an in-group kind of way.
yeah, yeah. When you mention high school, that's what it really makes me think
Yeah.
of, right? Like this it's important to remember at the end of the day. I think some people are deifying these Epstein class a
Mhm.
little too much. At the end of the day, if you and your friend group, now obviously you're not going to do this because you're better people, but if you and your friend group decided to control the world and to climb the ranks of power one step at a time, at some point you would be at the top. You would be desensitized to all the horrible things you have to do to get power, and you would still act in the exact same way that you do now, right? Like, you don't change your whole personality or your whole relationship with your friends and your buddies just because you've become the world cabal, right? You, in a very strange way, it's interesting to be reminded of how human these people are, despite being one of the worst of us, right? Um, so yeah, but let's get into a little bit of the backstory. So first things
Mhm.
first, if you're surprised, shame on you in a very subtle way. Okay, I understand that we're all busy, but complaints about Jeffrey Epstein have been coming out since the 90s. Anyone who seriously took a look at this in any time in the last 20 years should have arrived to the conclusion that what we saw released in the Epstein files was the most likely outcome of what was going on. So you shouldn't be surprised. The only thing that's surprising is that they released them and that they're seem to be almost like bragging about what they're doing. But other than that, there's nothing really surprising because we've had complaints and police investigations into Jeffrey Epstein since the 90s. In 2005, we had the first big police investigation. In 2008, that translated into a conviction. So he was prosecuted and convicted for prostitution. They took him in.
For like visiting a prostitute or like putting someone into prostitution.
So when he came into trial,
Mhm.
he was accused of sex trafficking minors
Mhm. Mhm.
or trafficking minors for prostitution, and he put forward a plea deal, which
Mhm.
very famously the lawyer of the accusers,
Mhm.
I forget his name, but who eventually went on to work in the Trump administration. So the guy who's supposed to be representing the victims
Mhm.
signs a plea deal with Jeffrey Epstein without consulting the victims. So this is illegal, of course. Your lawyer is meant to represent you, but in this case, the lawyer represented Jeffrey Epstein because he went behind the victim's back and signed a plea deal where they agreed to only charge Jeffrey Epstein on prostitution.
Mhm.
And in the court case, it says yes, the victim of the prostitution is a child, but
Mhm.
still we are not going to charge him or convict him, sorry, of a pedophilia and sex crimes against minors. We're just going to say that this was prostitution and that he did not know that the victim was a minor.
Which is pretty weird because I didn't know is not a legal defense for. No, like
yeah,
I
of
didn't
course.
know that this would kill him. I didn't know that killing was illegal. It's
Well-
no
well-
defense at
well,
all.
you
It's
have-
not a defense.
If you kill someone, you could get murder, but for murder you need to have
Intent.
intent.
Yeah.
So you can't say I didn't know this was going to kill. Then you get
True.
manslaughter instead.
Yeah.
So you work it down, right?
Yeah.
So that's the logic that they used in this case in 2008.
Yeah. Okay.
But still, at that point, anyone who read the public filings of the case or who followed the media would have understood that this guy was a convicted pedophile, right? And he was classified as a sex offender as well. So after 2008, even if somehow as a rich person you had no idea that Jeffrey Epstein was this terrible guy, after 2008 it was public knowledge, and that's when everyone should have first and foremost distanced themselves, and second, we should have arrested all of them, right? So this is 26 years ago, way too late. Not 26 years ago, sorry. 18 years ago.
yeah.
A little better. So yeah, that's where.
So it's longer ago than the age of most of his victims.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but no, like victims have fully grown up, had their own children.
Yeah.
And multiple generations have been trafficked by the Epsteins. He's been doing this since 1990. It's been 36 years of this depravity. In the 2010s, we had more civil lawsuits. So again, he was proven again and again to be liable for these things, but in civil court, so not criminal court, and hence he was not arrested until 2019. If you remember, Netflix came out with this documentary. It started to blow up again. There was this leaked recording of a CBS newscaster who said that in 2005 they had more than enough material to basically blast Jeffrey Epstein on national television, but they got some calls from higher up to bury the story.
Yeah.
So that exploded, and they couldn't really hide it anymore. And then they had to take him to court again because the first trial was such a scam. And in 2019, this is when he gets arrested for sex trafficking and conspiracy charges. And at that point is when the story basically ends, because he gets arrested, and under Donald Trump, he then dies very mysteriously in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After which the videotapes got released, right,
Yeah.
of around his death. And then there were cuts found, edits in the video,
There's
and
a
then
15
also it doesn't show the
Yeah.
door at all. Yeah.
So the official story is that the two guards were very sleepy that day, so they fell asleep at work. You know, as you do. You're
well, if you're a guard
policeman-
in a prison, it's imaginable that you sleep during your job sometimes. But
yeah, you're a policeman guarding the biggest sex trafficker in modern history, and
Yeah.
you happen to fall asleep.
in
and,
this case, I would stay awake. Yeah.
yeah, and the cameras happen to be off.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they said that the cameras were off or that the cameras were on, but then they lost the footage, because they always use the "I lost the footage."
Yeah,
excuse.
I think the first explanation was like a malfunction with the cameras,
Right,
and it
right.
didn't save or
It's-
something.
There was a
but,
UFO flying over, and it had an interference with the signal, and everything was lost. And oopsie daisy, now he's gone. You know,
Yeah.
like that sort of situation. So a complete joke. That they're kind of spitting in our face, calling us stupid at this point.
And there's only two explanations left, right? So either he was killed because the other people involved didn't want stuff to get out, and they wanted
Donald
to
Trump,
use him as
potentially.
a scapegoat,
Yeah.
possibly Trump, or they faked his death and he's still alive and he's somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, what can I tell you? There is no sane person left in the room to keep you calm and say, like, no, usually at this point, I would love to be the guy who goes, "Don't worry, guys. I know that this is all very conspiratorial, but the
Yeah.
truth is most likely somewhere around these lines." No, that role is gone, because we have seen now that the people we used to call crazy were right. So
Yeah.
maybe he's still alive. Maybe he's in Tel Aviv. Maybe he's in Argentina.
Yeah.
At this point, I can't tell you, because everything is so ridiculous,
Mhm.
and any institutions that offer legitimacy to the official truth have been completely discredited. So there is nowhere to go to.
At least
really understand
he
what's
is
going on.
still alive is more believable than he killed himself.
He definitely, okay, what we know is he did not kill himself. That's very unlikely. Like, yeah.
Doesn't fit the personality type as well.
It really
This is
doesn't.
the type of personality that really feels there's always still a way out.
Yeah.
They can work around, they can influence the courts, they can still flee. So this is not the type of person that would normally go to jail and then feel like I have no other options, I have to kill myself.
Yeah.
No, doesn't seem really.
And again, we don't know enough about the motivations of someone like Jeffrey Epstein in the sense of, you know, if he had some higher spiritual purpose, maybe he was genuinely trying to bring back some ancient god or something, then maybe you sacrifice yourself for the greater good in his eyes. But I don't think that's likely. It looks from the files that they just genuinely enjoy having power, abusing power, and living luxury lifestyles. And someone who does that would never take one for the team, because the point is to enjoy life, and you know, in a very sadistic way, in a very heathenist way, to enjoy life at the cost of others. And suicide doesn't really sit within that world, I would say. So that was the end of his life, and with that the case also closed. So again, charged for sex trafficking and conspiracy, and for the first time in sex trafficking history, there was no inclusion of co-conspirators or any trial going after who he was sex trafficking to, right? Because you have thousands, hundreds of recognized victims in the courts, thousands of potential victims who have accusations or have anonymous tips, and we're meant to believe that this one single man was the only person who was
he was just trafficking them as a sport. There were no clients.
It was just
sport. What the fuck? No, it's completely unbelievable. It's completely stupid.
He would traffic them from all around the world to his island. They would stay for 2 days, and he would traffic them back, and that's it. Nothing else is going on. No, so for a long time, we've all had the question, okay, finally, after 10, 15 years, we get a trial. Unfortunately, he dies, but at least the truth is out that this trafficking is happening. But who is he trafficking to? Now, this question was pretty easy to answer, because unless you have some childish sort of dream around the idea that the elites are good people and that they're all acting out of good faith, then you would immediately put 2 and 2 together. Okay, the world's biggest pedophile is friends with all of the world's richest and most powerful people. He's probably sex trafficking to them, right? Pretty standard, easy conclusion. But no, if you said that, you were called crazy. You were the crazy conspiracist uncle, blah, blah, blah. And so it always kind of, we were stuck in this limbo, where on one hand we recognized that these things were happening and that the victims were real, but on the other hand we refused to recognize that the abusers were also real, and that the co-conspirators were real. So that's what we see here in the Epstein files. The Epstein files include a lot of unverified claims as well, which are just anonymous tips. So to be clear, let's say that you are the FBI. I can just call you anonymously and say, I think that I saw this and that guy doing this and that. And then you would write it down, and that anonymous tip would then end up in the Epstein files. So in the spirit of not being too conspiratorial, we're not gonna go into anything that is an anonymous tip that has not been verified. If you want to see stuff like that, I'm sure you can find it by opening Instagram or TikTok. There's crazy.
Yeah, so this must be some of the stuff that I thought, well, this sounds really crazy. I don't know if this is true, but it could still be true.
It could be. I'm not saying it's not, but in this segment, we're going to rely only on the words of the people themselves being written via email. So yeah,
Because this is also maybe some sort of trap, right? Where
Yeah.
they publish these testimonies that they know are not true, but they have ridiculous stories. Everybody starts talking about the stories that aren't true, and then in the end they will say, see, this is not true at all. This is all made up. But just the things that are proven at this point, they are bad enough. We don't need the crazy stories.
exactly. So to give you an example, an anonymous tip said that the original George Bush, I
Mhm.
believe it was seen on the island eating the intestines of a baby.
Yeah.
Again, I don't put it past them. I'm not saying it's not true, because it fits within their ways of acting.
Mhm.
But it is an anonymous tip. It is not verified, so I'm not going to report it to you as if we know that this happened. However, we have thousands and thousands of emails from the most powerful people in the world that basically read something like this: subject line, crime, and then it will be very short emails. By the way, they use it like SMS almost.
Mhm.
And then the email will say something like, "Hey, last weekend it was super fun doing these illegal things with you, abusing children with you. When should we do it again?" Question mark.
Sorry.
And then it says sent from my iPhone, right? It always has sent from my iPad, sent from my iPhone, and then to Jeffrey Epstein from email redacted, which is driving me insane, right? So you have the whole email lays out very clearly someone who was happy to commit a crime with Jeffrey Epstein, and then the person who sent it redacted, because of course the redactions are here to protect the abusers and not the victims. I have some examples here. Let's have a look at at what we have.
Are you 18 years or older? Yes.
Yes.
Unlike the girls who went to
Oh
an island.
my god.
Sorry.
Sorry. If anyone is,
I have to tone it down maybe to be respectful, but it's so ridiculous that it's nice to joke about it, but really the victims are obviously
of course. But this is a prime example here. So this is from the DOJ website, by the way. So I'm getting this directly from the official Epstein files released on the DOJ website. There's no trickery here. You saw the link. And here you see, for example, to and from redacted, right? So you have this black box here. And by the way, they were so stupid that to do this black box, they just highlighted it. So a lot of people were able to copy paste it, and then you can take away the highlight and you can actually see who sent it. I don't think this is one of those cases, but little side story there. So you see here, it was sent in 2012, 7 p.m. And subject says, alert, what does Jeffrey Epstein think of going to Mar-a-Lago after Xmas instead of his island? Right? So just very openly discussing these things. And yeah, so this is like a classic example of just a random throwaway email that I happened to find. And you have thousands of these. I think we have another example that's a little more concrete. Yes, this is... So for those of you who don't know, there's been made a Jmail, which is like an email. Let me get the corner in here. It's basically an email inbox where you can look through all of Jeffrey Epstein's emails. Let me see what this one says. New Brazilian just arrived, sexy and cute, equal 9-year-old, best regards, right? So again, very, very strange emails that with the context of everything that we already knew with the convictions, you should be able to decipher what is going on.
No,
right?
I do have to correct you on this. I think this is about Brazilian jets, airplanes.
Oh,
and
okay.
the airplane is just 9 years old.
Okay, right.
Yes. I think Embraer, that's the brand of airplanes they make in Brazil. I think it's about an Embraer. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My bad. Who knows, because this is just a random email sent to Jeffrey Epstein, so it could be about anything. you know?
But Brazilian sexy and cute, 9 years old.
Yeah, this it's a bit painful when you remember that these are real people.
But I can imagine that in a court it would still be very hard to argue that this is actually about trafficking minors.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But the question is, like, it's very clear that if somebody sent an email like this to Jeffrey Epstein in 2012, 4 years after he was convicted of sex trafficking, or in the case where he's convicted of prostitution, you are probably worth investigating. So if this is not enough evidence, then at least it's enough to open an investigation where you should find evidence.
Mhm.
Because if you corroborate this with,
Yeah.
okay, on this day, where was the guy? You know, on January 17th, 2013, where was the person who sent this email? Was there a Brazilian 9-year-old that indeed went to his house? And if that victim also then has a testimony, if there's one or two eyewitnesses, all of a sudden you have a very strong
Yeah,
case.
true.
The point is, the FBI has been sitting on this, the DOJ has been sitting on this for 20 years, and they never released it, they never prosecuted anyone.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, by the way, this Jmail is yeah.
A guy for being convicted of prostitution and almost being convicted of trafficking a minor, they are not really careful.
yeah, it's crazy, right?
Like if you were never convicted of anything like this, then you could definitely send this kind of emails and just
Right.
pass it off as being something completely different. But after being convicted, that really shows that you
They did not
feel
care.
like nobody is ever gonna catch you.
They
you
really
can do
never
whatever you
thought-
want.
They never
Yeah.
thought they were going to get caught. And it makes sense because the people that own these emailing sites are all on their side, basically. Like we see all of these tech
Mhm.
billionaires are part of this, right? I just wanted to quickly show you how this works. If it works, let me refresh. Okay, it's apparently not
Mm.
working now, but
But you can just go through all the emails like it's your own inbox.
yeah, exactly. Let's see if this works. There you go.
Ah,
So it's a replica of Gmail's interface, and here you have all of the emails released by the DOJ, formatted as if it was your inbox. You can search here for whatever you want to look through. On the left, you have emails from prominent figures. You have Elon Musk, you have Ehud Barak. Yeah. So if you're bored, this is an interesting place to have a look.
I don't see Putin in the list of people.
Yeah, that's
Putin
strange.
should be there, right?
Yeah, I
he was
thought
a
he was-
Russian spy.
He was a Russian asset. Yeah, that's true. Why do we have?
Why are there only Israelis in the contact list?
Wait, I need to make it bigger so I can make sure I get the right name here. Why do we have Ehud Barak here?
Yeah.
And it says how many? 1,041 emails?
No.
But he's not Russian. He's Israeli.
so
What the hell?
strange.
yeah, no, something is definitely stranger. I think I had one more link here. That might. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I think there's just more quotes in this BBC article that shows kind of what I was saying. We don't need to go through it because I think you guys have seen it enough already on your Instagrams. But there's basically an overwhelming amount of emails that just says, "Thank you for sending that young woman or girl to my house. She was very naughty." They say that in many cases, and then basically from, and then the person who sent it is redacted. So yeah,
In this case, even if they aren't underage, I would still have very big questions about whether this is legal or whether this is trafficking.
yeah.
You know, even if they were not underage. So
Yeah. So very common themes we see in the emails, very open calls to pedophilia or sexual assault or just sex trafficking. There's also open mentions of torture and torture videos. So, for example, did you torture the guy? Is like just question mark, very slow or very short email just being sent with no context like that. Or thanks for the torture video. I really enjoyed it. Like these sort of emails come up quite a bit. There's a bunch of emails just speculating on world events. So for business opportunities, it seems like, for example, Brexit or the Argentinian crisis, and anything big that's going on around the world, they're gossiping with each other, trying to figure out how they can profit from it. Like you see that all the time. There's a lot of gossip around powerful people. So saying, "Oh, this guy over there is doing something interesting. It might be good to connect with him via this person." So just like, as you said, that kind of high school drama, just making sure that you're always in touch and have good relationships with anyone that might be powerful, right? and of course, the last thing that we saw a lot of was just a lot of hatred towards the left in general.
Ah.
So I'm gonna read this one to you, and it also gives you a bit of an example of how the emails look in this Gmail. So she will contact you directly. How was Jamaica? Jamaica is very good. Kids are great though. Tired of some of their admiration for Bernie Sanders. How are you? Sent from my iPad. This is every single time.
Yeah, this is important to note as well, right? That
Mhm.
normally you would expect these people for their communication to go through assistants, PAs, but
Yeah.
this is very clearly just this person on their iPad on the beach in Jamaica,
Yeah.
just sending a really quick message
Yeah.
because they are lazy about it too. They send like
Yeah.
sloppy kind of messages, so they do feel like it's necessary to communicate, but they don't have the time to really type out emails.
Yeah, no, this is again, this is what you sent to your friend.
Yeah.
How
But
are
but
you?
why
you
through
know?
email though?
Because they use that instead of text. I just think it's like some leftover from the business world that they use
Yeah,
emails,
maybe.
and they're also
Yeah.
quite old, these people, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And this is in so when is this?
2015.
So the iPhones are around now, like already in this time. But
in the United States, you did have unlimited texting in 2015 already. So
Yeah.
it came close to having WhatsApp, but it was still really new. So
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's just leftover from the days of, like, these people were probably one of the first to use email to kind of text each other,
Mhm.
because you could every evening log into your computer and quickly send something,
yeah.
and then it just kind of stayed like that.
Maybe they even had a sidekick at some point.
Yeah, could be.
Do you know what's the sidekick?
Um,
It was during the MySpace era, and it was this kind of mobile phone kind of thing
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
yeah.
full keyboards.
yeah, almost like a pager or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or- yeah.
And then we have Jeffrey Epstein responds, Sanders, oi, in Palm Beach, many currencies in free fall, having fun. So,
Oi.
yeah, like, again,
Is that an anti-Semitic dog whistle?
I'm not sure. Oi, like, you think he,
Oi vey.
oi vey, or he meant to add a G in front to goy. I'm not sure. But in any case, you see just like, and again, this is a random example, right? We're looking into someone's text messaging, basically. What's worst among currencies? Sent from my iPad. Please direct all scheduling inquiries to, okay. And it says close Russia, Brazil, Argentina, Belarus, Kazakh. So they're talking, it's a lot of things at once, right? It's,
Yeah.
hey, how are you doing, my friend? Where are you? It's hating on leftist politicians. And at the same time, quick catch up around the currencies that are collapsing for business opportunities, of course, so that you can make some trades and make sure that you're early on the on the downside to these currencies.
This is the biggest complaint, I believe, against Mendelssohn in the UK government
Uh-huh.
as well. Like this trading with insider information. That's
Yeah.
also part of this group, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
So these are the common themes. I think that gives a pretty good understanding of what they were doing in these Epstein files. Now, why did they release it? Right, this is a big part of how deep does the conspiracy go.
Yeah.
I have a pretty clean way of explaining it, I think, that I've arrived to, but I want to hear your opinion first.
Some people say there's a lot of pressure from Trump's voter base,
Mhm.
which does help with releasing it, which could be and possibly plays a part in it. When I look at the effects of how it's being released and when, then I think you could also see it that it serves as some kind of distraction. And some kind of way of extra information overload. You
Yeah.
don't know what to talk about anymore. There's too much, which is a great strategy to also diffuse the effects of the actual facts that are coming out.
Yeah.
And the focus is a lot on Epstein. So they are redacting all the other emails and contact information. And it's sort of making this narrative where, well, it's just this one bad guy, just like they did in the court case.
Yeah.
And now he's dead. So, well, what can we do about
So there's
it?
nothing to look into further.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The only issue I have with that is a distraction from what? Because everything that happens, there's
Mhm.
always some guy going, "Hey, this is a distraction from the fact that
Mhm.
It's kind of like the whole alien UFO discussion. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, everything they're doing is a distraction from the aliens, and the
Yeah.
aliens is a distraction from everything they're doing.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's not so much maybe then a distraction from something specific, but more in general that there's already an oversaturated news cycle, maybe
right,
with a lot of gruesome, horrible things that all deserve attention.
Mm.
And then you add
3 million
this to-
files of the most disturbing content you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be the case. I mean, I definitely think that they are trying to make it impossible for the average person to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Because even I've seen this now happening where I'm like, oh, I think this is the case. And then I doubt myself now. Where I'm
Mhm.
like, maybe I shouldn't believe in what I think is logically true,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I know that I have been wrong before
Mhm.
and wildly wrong, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
reality seems to shift so much nowadays that it's very hard to even rely on yourself.
Yeah, so this is also part of it. Maybe it's so unbelievable
Yeah,
that also it plays a bit with your sense of reality and
Yeah.
makes you question even more. Like, what's
Yeah.
the intention of releasing this? What's the effect? Who's benefiting from it? And it's
Yeah.
very hard in this case to put definitive or well-funded conclusions on these questions,
yeah,
and therefore everybody can have their opinion and their perspective, and
Yeah.
that's what confuses it even more.
exactly, right? We're gonna see a lot of division here. We're about to get to it. We're gonna go through all the different names that were in the files from every single region, and you're gonna see this very tactical play going on, where the Russians are shouting at the top of their lungs, "These are the Israelis. Look, it's all about Israel. Russia had nothing to do with it." The Western media is shouting at the top of their lungs, "No, this is not Israel. This is the Russians who did this."
Mm-hmm.
And all of that, meanwhile, the people are forgetting that was first and foremost an American operation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have the people in the United States that are like, "Oh, we need to arrest Bill Clinton," and the other side saying, "Bill Clinton, are you crazy? We need to arrest Donald Trump."
Mhm.
So everyone is trying to make this, to draw this issue along the same lines that we're used to fighting on.
Mhm.
But this is not a left versus right, again, religious issue. This is a up versus down. This is the elites versus the rest of us.
And this is another thing that it could be very easily used to neutralize someone that is actually not a bad person. They are a good
Yeah.
person, but somehow also they got associated with Epstein once or twice, but they didn't do anything within the trafficking and fucking minors. But now there's an email between this person and Epstein, so in the public eye, it's very easy to tarnish this person.
Yeah. Like Noam Chomsky, for example. Although
Maybe,
I do
yeah.
think he's guilty, unfortunately.
He might be, yeah.
Yeah. But my answer to why did they release it is because they're, first and foremost, this is not, as we said, a partial issue of one country or the other. This is a global network of the intelligence community, as they call
Mhm.
themselves. So the CIA, the MI6, the Mossad, the KGB, they're all connected to this because that's their job. And the people who are in the files and who own the files and have been compiling the files are the same people, right? The people who do the crime, document the crime in order for blackmail, and are supposed to use the documents and hold on to them in order to prosecute the people doing the crime, are all the same people,
Mhm.
right? That created a very unfortunate reality, which is that the FBI, the Department of Justice, which are supposed to be the ones collecting evidence in order to prosecute people, all of a sudden were sitting on a huge stash of criminal evidence against themselves and other co-conspirators. So in an ideal world, they would not have the files because then there's nothing to release.
Mhm.
This conversation would not have happened. But because they are the same people, they happened to have the files, right? And because of public pressure, it became known that they had the files.
Mhm.
Because of the small police investigations here and there that eventually went through, because of the 2008 trial and the 2019 trial, it slowly became known
Mhm.
that Jeffrey Epstein had a bunch of files and that the police took them and gave them to the FBI. So these, all of a sudden, you have two very unfortunate facts. one, that you have all the files, and two, that people know you have all the files.
Mhm.
So that puts you in a difficult spot. We have to understand that the DOJ did not go out of their way to get these files.
Mhm.
It is, they were just already had them. So things aren't playing out in the way that they want to,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Perfectly. So it's not like they would have released the files if they had another choice. But because you're in that reality, you now only have two options, right? One is to not release them, even though the American government puts forward a law and passes a bill that says you legally have to release them,
Mhm.
or you release them and see what happens. So you're in this difficult choice. If you choose not to release it, then you are essentially saying that you're no longer going to play in this democratic system, because the legitimacy of the DOJ and the FBI comes from representing the people. They are supposedly supposed to work for us, the people,
Mhm.
use our tax money, and can be overruled through a democratic process, right? If we want to change the FBI, or force them to do something, we can legally do it through democracy. So once the government puts forward a bill that says you must comply with releasing the files, if you don't do it, you are destroying the social contract, because you're admitting that you don't listen to the law
Mhm.
or democracy or any of the other institutions, and that you are above the law. And that would be, I think, catastrophic.
Mhm.
Then
Well, yeah, maybe specifically in this case, because
Yeah.
if it's another case and it's not so high stakes, then they can just get away with it and
Yeah.
they will do it.
Exactly,
But in this
exactly.
case, they couldn't.
Yeah, you
I
had
guess.
Congress pass a bill that says
Yeah.
you must release the files. So if you don't do it, then you're in serious trouble. On the other hand, they have been doing genocide. They have done wars everywhere. They shut down the world under Corona, which more and more seems to be a virus that everyone kind of knew was coming along, because they all were experimenting with these flus. And on top of that, already some Epstein files were released. He was convicted, and nothing ever happened. So the bet that they made is just release it, redact. Like, we're gonna delay it so that everyone behind the scenes can have a whole power struggle
Mhm.
to decide how much should be released on who. But ultimately, the population is not going to rise up. No one is really going to get prosecuted. So
Mhm.
just release it.
Mhm.
The masses have accepted all the other abuses of power until now. Why stop?
Yeah.
Right? If we stop the social contract, then we have social unrest. We have to go through potentially a revolution or something. But if we just release the files, they were betting on the fact that most people would just go on about their day and continue working.
Yeah. Yeah. In the end, it's always gonna be balancing between the amount of friction or pushback you expect when you don't release, and
Yeah.
the amount you expect when you do release. And apparently, they decided that releasing would give them less trouble, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And they were
Yeah.
right. I think they might be right. Most people kind of knew these things were already happening, especially if you sit in some higher middle class or low high class position
Mhm.
where you have contact with this group of people, and you've heard stories, you know, one or two victims in real life. So you kind of
Mhm.
understood it, but you're not gonna do anything about it because you also get some comfortable benefits, right?
Mhm.
And everyone is so individualistic now that I think we've genuinely hit a point where people almost don't care,
Mhm.
and will continue going to work.
But the genocide in Gaza did help with this as well. Like,
Yeah.
if they would have released it 3 years ago, the outrage would be a lot bigger, obviously. And also, already having the story circle before you release the files also helps diffuse, like in the other
Yeah.
cases we just described, because then the story we are hearing now about Jeffrey Epstein as trafficking children, we now have the proof, but we've heard that story already a lot of times over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Nobody is really getting surprised by it, and it therefore also loses a bit of its power, I guess.
Yeah, they've been doing it
gets
since the
diffused.
90s, and he was convicted in 2005, 2008, I can't remember now. And if people would have been outraged and done something about it, it would have been back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot easier for them to release it, to add this on top of the enormous list of bullshit that we now know to be true, and just accept you to live on,
Mm-hmm.
to stay complacent, is much easier than if you actually say sit everyone down at the table and say, look, I know that legally we have to release this, but we're not going to because we don't follow the law. You know, that's that
I did
confrontation is
notice
heavier.
another pattern that's interesting, I think. That the releases of part of these files, they do seem to coincide with the most racist remarks by Trump. So the
Right.
last time it was, the last
Yeah.
time, the last release, it was just when Trump said, I don't even remember what he said, so it worked. He did say something really racist about like Muslim Arabs and like all that kind of stuff. And now coinciding with this release is when he releases this video of Obama and Michelle as
true.
monkeys.
True.
So there is some perverted relation between this racism and this projection of bad traits onto the Untermenschen class, I guess.
Yeah.
And then also on the other hand, showing more and more that they are actually themselves the deprived ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really strange how that.
Yeah. No, but that's yeah. I think so. The people at the top don't seem to be that racist because
Mhm.
they mingle
Mhm.
across all these boundaries. But in order to keep their power, they have to convince the
Mhm.
working white class
Yeah.
that they are on the same team as
Yeah.
them.
And then they project their perversion onto the
Yeah.
underclass.
Then they say, okay, exactly. You had all the a lot of the people, the scholars or free thinkers from the secular movements, anti-religion movements,
Mhm.
who loved to come with these stories that Muslims are pedophiles and rapists and stuff like that. They were in the files as well, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
exactly, every
Yeah.
accusation at some point becomes a confession.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We see it here as well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at who was in the files. So we're gonna start with good old USA. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein himself is from New York, born there in 1953. And he mingled very early on with a bunch of finance elites from the US, from New York. And that's how he started building this network of his. And most of the people that you'll see in the files are American. Donald Trump was also there. He was part of the sex crimes very early on. He took part in the sex trafficking through teen beauty pageants. At least that's what it looks like in the files. And he then distances himself in 2010 from Epstein, where Epstein in one of these emails writes that Trump is the dog that hasn't barked. And this is kind of the start where we see a split between the two. So again, very good friends in the 90s and early 2000s, but then at some point after 2010, they start to become enemies almost. So competing factions. And direct emails stop, by the way, so they're not talking to each other directly. You know, we had all the letters sent from Trump released already, sent from Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, and in that we see in the 90s how they were very close and they were writing to each other directly, but we don't have those direct communication after 2010. And in the emails they discuss Donald Trump a lot, but they stop talking about him as a friend and more as a liability, someone who could bring the whole Epstein class down by releasing evidence by barking, you know, the dog that hasn't barked. And also very interestingly, or very interesting to me at least, because Donald Trump is so evil, apparently, right? So Jeffrey Epstein was worried about Donald Trump as a potential player on the global stage because Donald Trump is so evil, right? Which says a lot coming from Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
I think we have one here that shows what I'm talking about. Let's zoom in. So we have here From Jeffrey Epstein to redacted, of course, London Thomas Jr. Not sure who that is. He feels alone and is nuts. I told everyone from day one, evil beyond belief, mad. And most thought I was speaking metaphorically. It's obvious he could crack. Stormy Daniels, lies after lies after lies. What? So interesting, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Stormy Daniels was the porn star that Donald Trump slept with and paid $1 million in order to buy her silence. And this was a big court case going on in I think 2015, 2016 or something. This email is from 2018, so one of the last years that Jeffrey Epstein was alive. And you can see he very obviously is not rooting for Trump, right? He talks about lies after lies after lies. He knows about the secrets around Stormy Daniels because they're part of the same in group, so they know about each other's secrets. But he's no longer here. It looks like rooting for Donald Trump. And again, evil beyond belief is how he describes it. Then we get the response from London Thomas. He is scaring the shit out of me now. He could well tank global economy. Can Barack talk sense into him? Anyone?
So apparently Barack Obama was the guy that they could how do you say activate to talk sense into Trump at some point at least, but not in 2018 anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So at
the
some
power
point,
of Barack stopped working then.
Yeah. And this is really funny, right? So you see here how they're really afraid of Donald Trump by saying he could well tank global economy.
Yeah.
Don't forget what
is this around maybe the China trade wars in 2018 and the canceling of the World Trade Organization kind of stuff.
This is when all of that starts, right? After the midterms here in 2018. So I think it's so interesting to see how scared they are of Donald Trump tanking the global economy, right? So this is to say, this shows a little bit of that power struggle that a lot of people talk about between the new world order and the old new world order. You know, like the post Cold War world order has been intact for a long time, and Donald Trump comes from that elite circle. He participates in the same crimes. He operates in the same way, but he did genuinely after Obama in the early 2000s, he did have a genuine falling out with the world order and wanted to bring his own way back, right? Which is a lot more fascist, which is less liberal on the surface, and which is more about nationalism rather than global capitalism, right? For Jeffrey Epstein and his friends, nationalism is bad because then you cannot move money in and out of countries very easily. You can't just expand your capital without borders. Whereas Donald Trump, he ends the WTO, he imposes tariffs. All of these things are against global capitalism. So yeah, very, very, very interesting. Maybe it's time for you to jump in now. Given how he is throwing caution to the wind in such epic fashion, why wouldn't he take your call and give it a shot? So he's telling Jeffrey Epstein, can you do something about this Obama guy?
He will definitely.
Sorry about this.
He will definitely take your call. Why not?
Well, that's the interesting part, right?
Yeah.
Why not? I think so. To me, it looks like they start falling out, right? They're not really best friends. Yeah, let's see this one here. There's so many files that I don't always remember exactly what each one of them is. Let's see. Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Summers, speak today. And then Larry Summers responds, yes, in New York City, actually. And then he says, you're a man of the people. I think they're just sending... Yeah. So he sends an article around Donald Trump. Larry Summers responds, just didn't he work?
He didn't wreck the world and avoided scandal.
Yeah. What does says about his attitude towards women? So I'm not exactly sure what Larry Summers is talking about, but what I want to show is this last line here from Jeff. It says, importance high. Recall, I've told you, I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body, so yes, dangerous. So, And this is in 2017 again. So you clearly see after Trump gets elected how some of this elite circle is turning against him, right? Um, yeah. So Donald Trump is in the files. We have a lot of witness testimony. I'm not. I think it's too early to use that, but I do think there's enough testimony to start a case against him and figure out what is he guilty of. Yeah, but that gives you a little peek behind the scenes as well of some of these power struggles between players. Of course, we have Bill Clinton. He was in the flight logs in the early 2000s. A lot of association.
No proof of direct crimes. This is the first time for Bill Clinton that there's no direct proof of his sex crimes.
Yeah.
This is the only time.
Yeah, he could have. There's a lot of very interesting pictures of Bill Gates. There's also of Bill Clinton. Oh my, there's so many Bills in this Epstein files. There's also the photo finally came out of Bill Clinton in a dress.
Cool.
That was painted on his in one.
In the blue Monica Lewinsky dress.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And there was something right about giving a blowjob to Baba, and it Trump sucking Bill Clinton or Bill Clinton sucking Trump?
It was Trump sucking Bill Clinton. Yeah. So he's all over the files, but there is no email like with the other guys saying, "Hey, thank you for sending me this young girl," and blah blah blah. You know. So we definitely need
Bill Clinton
an investigation
learned
there as well. But
he knows better now.
Yeah, he understood.
He learned the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah, after the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Bill Gates is in there as well. Oh my God, this one is
in some really sick ways as well.
Yeah, this one is a bit crazy. I think there's a quote in here a bit further down. Let me show you what we're looking at here. Yeah, so here's basically Jeffrey Epstein. He added a draft email for himself as to how he was going to respond to Bill Gates. So he says, to add insult to injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics, and that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda, which is his wife.
And the description of your penis.
And that, yeah. So... Yeah, sorry.
To add insult to injury, you request this and you describe your penis to me.
No. So one of the horrible, ironic parts of the Epstein emails is that Epstein is very illiterate. Or not illiterate, but dyslexic. So it's a bit hard to decipher sometimes. But what he's saying is basically he got STDs, Bill Gates did. And he wanted to, he had given these STDs to his wife, Melinda, and he wanted to hide the medication in his penis the next time they had sex so that Melinda could be cured of the STDs without ever knowing that she contracted.
Rich people are really stupid.
Yeah.
you don't take STD antibiotics through your genitals.
Right?
You just take them by mouth or injection.
I mean, here he says, and...
What the hell? No.
Really? Do you think that's what he's saying? I'm not sure. That's how I understood the first time I read it, but now that I realize
it's really strange.
And the description, you request that the emails.
Right. To add insult to the injury, you implore me to delete the emails regarding your STD and the description of your penis.
Okay, I think it's three different things, right? So your STD, comma.
Your request. And the description of
I'm
your
sorry,
penis.
but this one here is just kind of out in the open. I don't know what that means. Okay.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
At least we know Bill Gates described his penis to Epstein, which is awesome information to have.
It looks like it, right?
Yeah.
It looks like it. So, and by the way, this is part of a longer thread where Jeffrey Epstein basically says, look, you're asking me to do all these things. If I were you, I would put money into this and that fund, and then maybe and that's it. He doesn't say then maybe something will happen, but he just says, look, you're in this difficult situation where you're asking me to do these favors. if I were you, I would put money. I think it was a few million in this and that fund.
This is a recurring pattern I've heard of, that a lot of times when people needed a favor, that's
Yeah.
when they ended up with Epstein. So a lot
Yeah.
of times it seems like
Yeah.
it is kind of a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
I've heard also about, but I haven't confirmed this, but someone told me this was also inside the files,
Mhm.
that Hosni Mubarak, the old president of Egypt, he
Yeah.
got the post, obviously, and then he went to jail and he was scared of being executed and his children being executed. And then
Yeah.
also he went to Epstein to ensure his safe passage from Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah. There's Egyptians in there as well.
Yeah.
Continuing with America here, we have Alan Dershowitz,
Mhm.
who is the lawyer to Jeffrey Epstein for a long time. He was defending him in the 2019 trial as well, and who also happens to be the lawyer defending Israel in the ICC against the genocide
Yeah.
claim coming from South Africa. So very interesting how these people always seem to represent each other. I'm not going to give you too much evidence on Alan because he's already been in several trials of his own. So this is just
But
a little.
I do
extra.
think something nice to investigate for someone here is, how does the link go from, because Alan Dershowitz is in the circle, but also Noam Chomsky is kind of in the circle,
Yeah,
and then Norman Finkelstein is the protege of Noam Chomsky.
yeah,
So how does that link go? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
but that's what I'm saying. So Alan Dershowitz and Norm Chomsky would have huge disagreements.
Yeah.
They are like titans inside of the Palestine-Israel issue. They are titans on opposite sides.
Yes.
One believes in complete genocide and ethnic cleansing and defends in the International Criminal Court as one of the highest lawyers in the world, defends Israel's genocide. And the other one writes a famous book called Manufacturing Consent about how all war is fake and is just for the profits of the military-industrial military-industrial complex. And how people like Alan Dershowitz are lying about all of their justifications
Mhm.
in a way to manufacture consent for war. And still, both of them are buddies with the same pedophile elite,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein. So that's what I mean, is that this club is big. It's a very big club, and it goes from the extreme left to the center to the right. No one is really safe except for Norm Finkelstein, who is another Jewish titan standing up for Palestinian rights. And there is an email from Jeffrey Epstein to Finkelstein,
Mhm.
and Finkelstein tells him to fuck off, and that he basically
in typical Finkelstein
yeah,
fashion. Yeah.
he CCs his wife and his daughter, and he calls him I think either a pedophile or something similar in the email. So big shout out to Norm Finkelstein
yeah.
for not being in the Epstein files in a negative way.
Yeah, sometimes you get question marks with Finkelstein as well, but then, yeah, there are these little, kernels of gold that he has,
Yeah.
that where you feel like you cannot deny him props and respect.
He's really good. He's really
Yeah.
good. I was terrified he would be in these files, but he was not.
Mhm. Good.
Elon Musk. Oh my God, this we have to laugh a little bit about this one. So Elon Musk was not caught. Admitting to any horrible crimes, but if you know anything about what he's been saying recently, he was very proud of the fact that he never went to the Epstein Island and never wanted to go. The way he presented it is that Jeffrey was trying to convince him to go to the island, and he said no. But instead, what really happened is that you have these back and forths between Elon Musk and Jeffrey, where it says something like, "We'll be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays. Is there a good time to come visit?" From Musk, right? And then Epstein replies, "Any day, 1st to 8th, play it by the ear if you want. Always space for you." Epstein replies, and then Elon Musk gets a little bit pushy, and eventually Epstein rejects him and says, "Bad news. Unfortunately, my scheduling will keep me in New York. I was really looking forward to finally spending some time together with you, with just fun, together with just fun as the agenda. So I'm very disappointed. Hopefully, we can schedule another time in the future," Epstein writes. Then Elon Musk responds at some point and says, "How many people will well, sorry, my glasses really don't reach this far. How many people will you be for the heli to the island?
Yeah, also the sentence is kind of weird. It's not just
Yeah.
your glasses.
If I can't guess myself forward, then I yeah. But anyways, there's a lot of back and forth correspondence here. I think there's yeah, this one is really,
You
really
know,
good.
Elon Musk is giving me in the this kind of exchange. He's giving me the vibes that he actually gives to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then we get back to the high school dynamic. Like Epstein is the club of the cool kids, and
Yeah.
Elon Musk doesn't fit in at all because he doesn't
Yeah.
fit in anywhere because he's not the cool kid,
Yeah.
and he's trying to get in so hard.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then when he gets rejected, then afterwards he will say, "Well, I never wanted to get in anyway."
So Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah.
is the guy who in the high school who can do all the illegal and taboo activities.
He's the one with the fun parents who leave the home for them
yeah,
to party.
I don't want to take that on because I feel like those kids could sometimes be more moral than some of the other kids. But he's
Yeah.
how do you say, he's a fucked up version of that, where it's not just for having fun. He also wants to abuse power, right?
Yeah.
And then Elon Musk is like that guy that the cool kid needs to talk to simply because he has some form of like institutional power. Maybe his parents are the boss of his parents or something, you know?
Yeah.
He has to somehow accept him, but he can't be rude to his face. And he would rather really not.
Yeah.
You know?
He tries to find ways to exclude him from the party without
saying-
insulting him.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what we're going to see here, right? So Elon Musk, also, by the way, Elon Musk is the only one in these emails who writes like this, you know? Do you have any parties planned? I've been working to the edge of my sanity this year. And so once my kids head home for after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I'm looking for.
Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yeah. And also what you see here, by the way, is Epstein at some point writes like, I'm not retarded. I'm not inviting you to do boring things on the island. He literally says, I'm not retarded, right? When I say, let's go do something boring, what I mean is we're going to go do the children stuff, you know? And you idiots like don't seem to understand it. It's
You're
almost
being way too explicit about it.
yeah, and I have to like explain it to you, and you're coming with these long messages like just say yes or no and keep it kind of secretive because that's what makes it fun, you know?
You actually see in the way of writing that he's not in the ink club because
Yeah.
people in the ink club, they all write different subjects mixed within a same message.
Yeah,
Very short, very vague, but they know what they are exchanging.
exactly.
And Musk is being way too literal and way too
Yeah. Epstein responds, understood, I will see you at the same BART. The ratio on my eyelid might make Talila uncomfortable. Ratio is the problem for her. Yeah, okay. Eventually, I think we can cut it here, but eventually, basically, Epstein responds that we're actually thinking about shutting down the whole island experience operation. So I'm sorry that it's not a good time. Maybe you missed the best days, right? Which we later learned is not true. They kept going. So basically, to get Elon Musk off of his
No,
back.
maybe my parents aren't going on vacation
Yeah.
and we cannot do the party.
Yeah.
It's cancelled.
The party got cancelled. Actually, you know. Oh my god, man! It's so.
Maybe
Yeah,
that's why
yeah.
Musk and Trump like each other as well. Maybe they both had some kind of beef
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this in-group. I don't know.
It could be. I do think they had beef. We should do an episode at some point when a little more files come out where we look at big picture who are the actual power players and what are they competing against.
Yeah.
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
4chan, this one broke my heart because the implications are just terrible. I'm just gonna show you the headline very quickly here. Epstein met with 4chan's founder just as the site's infamous political threads began. What they basically explore in this article is how 4chan seems to have been under the influence of Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine was a super mod on Reddit as well, on a lot of these politically open threads and forums. And for those of you who are not chronically online, 4chan, well, Reddit, I think you know, but 4chan is like a more extreme version of Reddit, it is really like the dark corner of the internet where all of internet culture seems to come from. So they are years ahead in the meme manufacturing industry. It is a common place where school shooters post their manifestos. It's very anti-feminist space. There's also a lot of pro-pedophilia content on there. People, quote unquote, libertarians who challenge the age of consent. Of course, QAnon came out of 4chan. The whole Pizzagate conspiracy theory came out of 4chan as well. And for those of you who don't know Pizzagate was basically one of the more extreme conspiracy theories that came out of QAnon, which was that the world was being run by a cabal of pedophiles who eat babies for Satan. And now that seems to be at least 80 or 90% true. And I just wanted to also quickly show you. So in Epstein's email here, if you just search for the word pizza, you get 200 responses.
Yeah.
And there are some in here that are very, very... I'm not going to look for...
I just wanted to check if I remembered correctly. Wasn't also the Pepe meme originated from 4chan, right?
Exactly.
Because in the video that Trump released this weekend with Obama and Michelle as the monkeys, there is some part where the Pepe meme is also walking alongside Trump in this video again.
Yeah, I'm just seeing here. Thanks. Fucking lightsaber. Yeah, you see, like, this is really strange things. I don't know. If you search for pizza, you'll find a lot of strange emails talking about pizza as if it's not pizza, right? As if it's something else. And the Pizzagate conspiracy is that it's not pizza, it's children. And as you said, the Pepe came out of 4chan as well. Actually, a lot of the memes that boosted Donald Trump to through the primaries in 2016 also came from 4chan.
Yeah.
A lot of psyop operations with accounts pretending to be, for example, there was this whole time where the trans community was being accused of pushing for pedophilia, and it turns out that the Facebook page that was doing this advocacy was a troll group from 4chan, right? So all of these weird psyop operations. So again, there is something very strange around. Are they just trying to drive the population crazy, and by putting it on 4chan, they're like, okay, anyone who talks about Jeffrey Epstein is now going to be automatically put together with the group of people who are most fringe, and thereby we buy ourselves some time by discrediting anyone who talks about Jeffrey Epstein, or was there something else in play that they genuinely just wanted to brag and have this information out there? I don't know. Okay, so in the US, basically all of the elites, unfortunately also Jay-Z, Beyonce, they're all in there, okay? They're pretty much anyone who has any significant clout or power is in the Epstein files.
Might explain why Beyonce hasn't released a good album in at least 10 years.
Yeah, could be. And also Jay-Z, by the way.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah. It's an absolute shame, but
Beyonce's albums in the last 10 years, they are a bloody shame.
and well, for me, it's more Jay-Z that I'm heartbroken about.
Him,
but I've known that for a while. Like, if you listen to Jay-Z, you know that he's an absolute...
They are really... They love the symbolism and the glorification of elite
they're up there.
Symbols and rituals as well.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And now we know why, because they're also in these files. In the UK, of course, you have Ghislaine Maxwell, who is British herself, and comes from a family in Britain with a lot of power. Yeah. You have Prince Andrew.
Yeah, this is the partner of Epstein, right? For a long time, they're married.
Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah.
And her father is the Robert Maxwell that smuggled weapons from Czechia to Israeli terrorist groups before 1948. And the other way around as well.
Yeah, so basically arms smuggling to and from Israel.
Yeah, so smuggling, trafficking, it's been in the blood for a long time. Yeah.
No, it is, and that's what you see is a lot of lineage in these files as well.
Yeah.
And again, these different lineages have different factions where they fight against each other a little bit. But ultimately, the thing that unifies them is always keeping power in the hands of the ultra wealthy. Prince Andrew. Let me see what this first link is. Yeah, I think it's the image here. Yeah. So I think if we scroll down a bit, we will get to it. Yeah, there's this famous image, which, if you don't remember, this was released in 2019 or 2020, I think, some time ago. And there was the famous BBC interview where he said, "This cannot be me because I don't sweat from my nose." And now it's been confirmed in the Epstein files that this is a real photo. So he basically said that it was AI generated back then, that it's not a real photo. And this is one of the victims, of course, of Ghislaine Maxwell, who's there, Jeffrey Epstein's partner. And I wonder if we have one more photo in here. No, we don't. But he was heavily, again, implicated in these files. And this photo here that he before defended on live television has now been confirmed to be true. He was stripped of his titles after this latest, or previously. And now
that's when you know you've really done some bad stuff.
Yeah, when even the British royalty is like, hey, maybe not.
I mean, we're used to drinking baby blood, but just on Sunday in the palace.
Yeah.
But other than
And
that,
also,
we don't
like
do that
getting
stuff.
caught, you know, like
No.
that's the yeah. And look, it looks very bad for him. I mean, you have photos like this,
Looking so
bad.
yeah,
So
like
bad.
it's not even, you don't even see a crime here, but you just know that
You
it's
know-
bad.
You
know
know,
it's bad.
A man with a look in his eyes like this is
Yeah.
It's so creepy. You know, yeah, like that stare there.
Yeah.
First of all, it looked like you're on something, and second of all, you look very disturbing. You know, like this is someone who's on a power trip. Is what I see.
Yeah. Or gooning.
Yeah, one of. Can't believe. Oh my god, I can't believe. Okay. Yeah. But you're definitely not.
But some people try to sell it like, no, but she passed out and he's trying to give her CPR.
That doesn't
And
look
then
like
you
what's
see
going on.
someone in the back just chilling with their feet
That
up.
Doesn't look like what's going on at all.
No,
No,
that's not
no.
what's going on at all.
Yeah.
No.
And also, we have more than enough evidence around this guy by now. So
Yeah.
Keir Starmer says that he should testify in the U.S. Sorry, I wrote UK, but it should be in the U.S. So Keir Starmer is saying, yeah, he should be held liable. He should be held to account, but not in my country, in the United Kingdom, where he is from. They should do that over there in the U.S. Which is very interesting. Of course, Keir Starmer is also implicated in this because of Peter Mandelson, which was the UK ambassador to the US, and he was appointed by Keir Starmer. And of course, as is UK practice, he was waiting for a scandal because he immediately resigned, as they love to do in the UK politics. And basically, it's because the images are, again, very, very damning. I wonder if in this BBC article we have any images. No, I don't think
There's
so.
images of him with women?
Yeah, it's actually a bit ridiculous. Like, there's a bunch of images of him just in his underwear. Yeah, so here you have one. So you see him there just in one of
that looks like a woman. Is that Peter Mandelson?
Yeah, that's him.
He's very weird looking.
He's very weird looking, right? And this is when he's younger.
With his legs crossed.
And there you have Jeffrey Epstein on the right.
It's not, yeah. Okay.
But you see, like, just very relaxed, you know, in a robe. And if we scroll down, I think we're gonna have this one here. So this is with a woman, and he's standing there in his underwear. And I saw 3 or 4 more photos of just him.
I mean,
like this.
Just
you know?
that underwear is a crime in itself.
Also. Yeah, the generation as a whole is a disaster. Yeah, they had some financial dealings, a lot of correspondence back and forth, and basically, Keir Starmer is now saying, I didn't know of this. Peter lied to me, and that's why I kept standing by his side. But I'm not convinced, right? I don't think that's true.
No, well, Peter Mendelssohn's relationship with Epstein as a friend after Epstein was convicted, that
Also
was
that-
already public knowledge.
Right.
Um,
So that should have been enough, right?
Yeah,
But again,
maybe,
because we
yeah.
just let them get away with it, they continue.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to show here about the UK is Brexit. So obviously they left the European Union some time ago, and when that was happening, Epstein celebrated Brexit and said that there would be a return to tribalism now in one of his emails. I wonder if they have yeah, so Jeffrey Epstein writes to tech billionaire Peter Thiel, who is now the head of Palantir, that Brexit is just the beginning, and says, no, I'm trying to find the next quote. Brexit is just the beginning. Epstein says, return to tribalism, counter globalization, amazing new alliances. You and I have both agreed zero interest rates were far too high. As I said in your office, finding things on their way to collapse was much easier than finding the next bargain. Right? I think this is very interesting to me. So basically, he's saying that as world players, being able to influence the collapse of something and then being there ready once it's collapsed to buy everything up very cheaply is much better than going around looking for the next bargain. So you engineer the collapse, and this is also part of the Epstein files, how they were very much involved in Brexit and European right-wing movements. You engineer a collapse. Once it collapses, you go in and you have a bunch of opportunities to make money because everything is kind of in chaos and everything is also at sale at a discount, you know? So you can buy up big parts of an economy if you make sure to collapse the economy first. So yeah, for all of you UK people out there, Brexit is a big part of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find out more about the right-wing parties in the UK and their links to Jeffrey Epstein as well. So that leads us to Europe, our part of the world. Did you hear anyone from Europe that you were surprised about?
I didn't hear so many. Just the Princess of Norway. That's the one I did hear. And well, it didn't much surprise me, or yeah, I don't know. Like they're not interesting figures, I think, at all.
Yeah, you had. It's kind of interesting because Norway has a lot of money. They have this sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because you see how the royals are again and again implicated in this, right? If you have royal blood, having connections to Jeffrey Epstein seems to be part of the requirements of being a royal.
When is Willem Alexander getting exposed?
Yeah, that's the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any Dutch
He
royals.
could be in there as well.
He definitely could be. But the crown princess of Norway, Mette Marit, I think her name is. If Jørgensen is in the chat, by the way, I know you're Norwegian. You can tell me how to pronounce it. But the socialists put out a vote basically to get rid of the royal family because the connection to Jeffrey Epstein was so detailed.
Okay.
Basically, she treated him as a close friend. And one of the emails from her says, is it appropriate to buy a poster of two naked women holding a surfing board for my 16-year-old son? And she sent this question to Jeffrey Epstein, right? So just a convicted...
Getting parenting advice from a convicted pedophile.
Insane. Insane. That's what our royal families are doing in Europe.
No.
And that son, who was 16 at the time, later grew up to be a serial rapist. And has now is facing many trials. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
So also just to show you a bit the repercussions of...
This is also a returning kind of theme, I guess, with royals over a longer stretch of history, that they do have some attraction to cultish kind of leaders. So if you look at Rasputin, for example, but also you had in the Netherlands here Princess Juliana, who at some point got like obsessed with Greet Hofmans was her name. She was some kind of spiritual healer, kind of person who came into the court,
Yeah,
the royal
yeah,
court, and
yeah.
then it came up to a point that it became a scandal because her husband at the time, Prince Bernhard, had to like publicly come out with this information to shame his wife and get this woman removed.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, the royal families are fucking insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the long story short.
Apparently, they want someone to guide them in some way, or
Yeah, it makes sense, right? You're on top of the world, and you're like, well, who's gonna guide me? Who's gonna tell me
Yeah.
what to do? As in, like, I don't want to make all these decisions. I have so much doubt in the decisions I'm making for all of these people that it would be nice to have someone I can scapegoat, I guess.
Yeah, some psychological externalization of guilt and responsibility. Yeah.
So, that's obviously very unfortunate, and I also see there a bit of passing down of trauma, right? So your mother is closely tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Who knows what happened to him as a kid, and then he grows up to be a serial rapist. We also have the ex-prime minister of Norway. So again,
so the Norway connection is pretty deep.
very strong connection to Norway. And this is also ties back to Israel, of course, because we have former Norway PM under corruption investigation over Epstein files. And if you don't know, these are the. Let me make sure I'm not making this up, but I'm pretty sure he's from the Social Democrats in Norway. I'm trying to find his political party anywhere. But as you know, the Norwegians have played a big part of their role in settling the first and second the first Intifada with the Oslo Accords between the Israelis and the Palestinians and Bill Clinton. And it turns out that a lot of those old social democratic names are also connected to Jeffrey Epstein in these files. So the whole world order in the 90s, including the social democrats in Europe, are tied into this. Very, very unfortunate for us here, because it just once again confirms that the social democrats were a sort of controlled opposition and don't have any real leftist values at the end of the day. The Slovakian National Security Advisor has also stepped down because of links to Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, you have Macron from France that we always talk about.
What's his connection?
Asking for business advice, basically. Again, these ones are not as strong.
Who wants to buy my champagne?
Who wants to buy my... Donald Trump is... he wants a huge tariff, and because of that, I don't know what to do. Maybe Jeffrey, you can help me a bit, Yeah. I think let's play this video, and that gives us just a second to breathe, while somebody else summarizes all of the European leaders that we've just talked about.
Matteo Salvini.
Matteo Salvini is
was
also
like old Italian president. Let me get some Red Bull.
Yeah. All good.
A handful of
Oh my god,
documents
I
suggest a
am
close-
sorry guys. I again played the video without having the sound on. But anyways, I realized she's a little bit boring. I think there was one here.
And she's running cover for Macron.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, there's no real proof that he actually communicated with Epstein.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you this one here, which was quite interesting.
a check.
I would take the MI girl.
This is the ex security minister of Slovakia.
You can have them both. I'm not possessive. They're all under 30, so probably too young for you. Regards from Kiev, just to confirm the girls here are as gorgeous as ever.
These exchanges were sent in 2018, long after Epstein first pleaded guilty to soliciting sex from
Yeah, so
Mm.
you have a bunch of these creepy messages from European leaders going back and forth. A lot of it is also about business dealings. And as you were bringing up, Matteo Salvini from Italy is also in the files in that
Wasn't he
regard.
the one who did the austerity after
Yeah.
the
He came after Berlusconi,
financial
right?
crisis?
Yeah. Yeah, we're almost there. I just quickly wanted to mention Russia. A lot of people are trying to convince you now that Jeffrey was a Russian spy. You're gonna see that all over mainstream media. Whenever they talk about Europeans or Americans, they're gonna say no. Just because they're in the emails and in the files doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean that they're doing something wrong. I think I challenge that and I say I think it's enough evidence to at least open a very strong investigation.
Yeah.
And in most cases, I'm willing to bet 9 out of 10 times you're going to find out that they were guilty, right? I think out of 10 people who talk in this friendly manner to Jeffrey Epstein in the emails, 1 out of 100 will be innocent because either you're committing financial crimes, crimes against humanity, crimes against international law. Like you're
Yeah.
part of one of these many shady businesses, right? And whenever they bring up, and they're not going to bring up Israel. Like when you bring up the Europeans and the Americans, they'll defend it, they'll sugarcoat it,
Mhm.
and they're just simply going to pretend like Israel does not exist in this
Yeah.
regard.
Like it's not the biggest pedophile safe haven in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of mentions of Russia and Vladimir Putin, but not in the same friendly manner that you see Jeffrey talking to the Israelis, the Europeans, the British, and the Americans, right? What Russia represented more for Jeffrey Epstein seems to be a hunting ground. So basically, all the ex Soviet blocs and Russia itself, after the collapse of the USSR, meant that there was a lot of people who were living in poverty. There was not a lot of state control, so people could just disappear like that. A lot of people were dying. So it became a place where he could go and traffic a bunch of girls, and particularly white girls, who are harder to get a hold of for a sex trafficker like this because most of them live in countries where the civil registry is monitored a bit more closely.
And also normally white women are considered actual humans, and
Actual
if you're
citizens, yeah.
you're a bit Slavic, then yes, you are white, but
But it's
not
happening
really
over
white.
there in Russia. You know, you don't you
Yeah.
have a funny accent, or you don't have the same friendly mannerisms that you would have in the
Yeah.
UK. So therefore, you're white, but not not really. you know?
White, but white that can be made into
white
a whore.
white minus.
Yeah,
Right?
white minus. Yes.
Yeah, again, from the perspective of Jeffrey Epstein and his bandits. So, of course, I'm sure the Russian oligarchs were part of these dealings.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm sure they either supervised it, took part in it, or at least allowed it. I'm not taking away responsibility from them, but it does not look like Jeffrey Epstein was an asset of the
Mhm.
oligarchs.
Mhm.
And again, Russian intelligence was definitely connected to Jeffrey Epstein, but so was every other intelligence community in the world, because this is a guy who has a lot of blackmail and powerful friends. So of course, your job as an intelligence agency is to
Yeah.
get connected with him. And that's the regard in which Russia seems to appear in these files. So it could be that Putin has a bunch of blackmail on Donald Trump and other powerful Western figures, but it doesn't look like to me that he was taking part in the systematic abuse. Yeah. On the other hand, Israel, oh my God. Of course, we have Ehud Barak, the ex-prime minister of Israel. He was all over these files. He appears. I think he's the second most appearing name. So he's heavily involved with Epstein. They discuss a lot of business dealings. The Peter Thiel meets with Ehud Barak for the first time because of Jeffrey Epstein. There's an audio recording that also leaked between Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein, which is very interesting. Yeah, let's have a look here. I wonder which. Oh yeah, it was just to show you this picture. We have known for a long time. This is the Times of Israel. That Ehud Barak was heavily involved with Jeffrey Epstein. I think these photos came out in 2019, which shows the ex-prime minister covering his face, sneaking into the New York mansion, and at the same time, all these women were photographed coming in and out of the mansion in inside of New York. So we've known for a long time that he's been involved, and what it looks like here is that really Jeffrey Epstein was a big contact point for Israel into the American elites, and there's also a little bit of like religious and ideological alignment between Ehud Barak and Jeffrey Epstein, in the sense that they are both Jewish supremacists. It's actually so hard to place them in a box, because on one hand they are so laissez-faire about international crime and racism. Like, it's clear that they have some racism in them, but on the other hand they also represent liberals in the sense that you should wear whatever you want to wear. You know, these formalities are not that important. And Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak both agreed that the solution to the demographic problem in Israel would be to let Christians convert to Judaism without having to be of Jewish descent. Whereas the extreme right in Israel is against that. And now they are writing articles talking about how the left-wing global conspiracy to destroy Israel is leaked in the Epstein files. So they're inside of Israel right now. Benjamin Netanyahu and others are taking Ehud Barak, Jeffrey Epstein, saying that they are left-wing communist global conspiracists who are against Israel, right? So just to, from our perspective, of course, these people all sit on the extreme right and on in the elite class. But it's funny because for other people, they represent this liberal new world order. So I think, in a funny way, when the extreme right talks about the liberal world order, and when we talk about the fascist world order,
we're talking about the same.
We're talking about the same people.
Yeah, true.
We just are cherry picking which side of their ideology we examine.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Jeffrey Epstein's opinions on sexuality, he is very liberal, right? He believes in that an LGBTQ and queer liberation, if you will. But if you look at his opinion on the economy, he is an alt-right anarcho-capitalist. If you examine his view on Israel from our perspective, he's a ethno-fascist. But from Benjamin Netanyahu's perspective, he's a snowflake libtard. So it's just funny how all these groupings can be thrown around and twisted in this game. Of course, Maxwell's dad that you mentioned, Robert Maxwell, was also a part of the Epstein files, and
he actually had quite a similar kind of narrative surrounding him, just as Epstein has now, that it was being claimed that he was a spy for a lot of different countries. He was supposedly a Soviet spy. But in the end, he got buried in Jerusalem.
Exactly.
And they had some speeches at his funeral in which they proclaimed that he did more for Israel than could be mentioned publicly today.
Yeah. He was giving an official burial by the state of Israel, Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell. And he seems to have kind of set up modern intelligence agencies. Like, he modernized intelligence agencies basically to include these blackmail operations and to include these merging the intelligence with the underworld, the criminal world, and
but also the media at the same time.
Yeah, so basically creating a mafia out of the central intelligence. That's the real world, right? The word is mafia. Creating a mafia out of the intelligence. He was kind of a pioneer in that area. And at some point in the files, somebody alleges that he was going to blackmail the state of Israel if they didn't give him 200 million. And then he ended up dead the week after, right? So there is some conspiracy around that. But he had a very mysterious death where he fell off of his yacht. And Maxwell soon after replaced him with Jeffrey Epstein. So basically, Maxwell was used to being part of this intelligence community, having her dad as this powerful man, and then she just replaced him with Jeffrey Epstein, who became the next powerful man. And they continued the operation, most likely due to Maxwell's existing ties with Israel and other intelligence communities. So yeah, Israel is heavily implicated, and the way that these people talk about Israel and Palestine is very interesting, because they are Ehud Barak, the same policies he had as prime minister, right? So pro genocide, pro expansion of Israel, just with a bit of liberal coding, let's say. And of course, the Arab monarchies, who are also friends with Israel, are all over the files as well, especially the Saudi crown prince Mohammed bin Salman, that everyone is talking about. There's also some of the Qatari royals who are implicated. And yeah, man, I could keep going with South America, with a few Chinese, with Australians.
Did you also read about that? Apparently, Epstein asked Saudi Arabia or bin Salman to send some pieces of the Kaaba, and he got them.
No, I
apparently.
didn't.
Ah,
I didn't.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
just heard about it. I didn't confirm. So if anyone can confirm or like disprove, that's
Yeah,
nice. But
yeah.
I heard about that, and it's really a strange
yeah.
twist as well.
Like as I said, I tried to stick to the big figures, and still it took an hour. I think even
Oh my god.
an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
We
it's been
took
going
way
so long.
longer than we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry guys, but researching this took even, I think, 6-7 hours or something. Like the list could keep going and going
Yeah.
and going, and we could bring more and more accusations. I tried to stick to the biggest names with the most concrete proof, and that's it. And still we've been sitting here for an hour and a half. And you might be suffering from this information overload that we started discussing at the beginning of the video. So let's dumb it down in a way that you can understand, and I'm also going to give you a clear action so that we can focus all of this energy, because right now it's everywhere. Everyone is blaming the other group, and what is not happening is that the working class is not being unified, right, around this issue. And if we don't, then this abuse is going to keep going on. So very simply put, it's a global conspiracy with no divides between politics, race, or religion. It is only divided on power and gender. So this is about men assaulting women and the powerful assaulting the powerless. That is what's going on, nothing else. And it doesn't matter if the powerful man in your country publicly says, I don't like the powerful man in that country. Behind the scenes, they are both friends and like to abuse their power together. What were they conspiring to do? So they have all this power. What do they conspire to do? They like to do deals between powerful people based on money, class, and knowledge, and like to partake or provide the services, taboo services, let's call it, to other powerful people. So how does a deal work? Like, what do you need to have in order to be part of this club? Money, class, knowledge, or access to taboo activities, right? So if you have a shit ton of money like Elon Musk, you end up being in there because it's a big resource. If you have class, for example, royalty, science, or art, if you're a famous person, then you get to be part of it. If you have knowledge, because you have blackmail, or perhaps this is even in the spiritual realm, if you have access to the Vatican files, for example, stuff like that, then you get to be part of it. And the last one, which is the center point where Jeffrey Epstein operated, is if you're able to provide secretive taboo experiences, starting with, of course, drugs and partying. As you mentioned, the high school cool kid is a perfect analogy. Whoever can provide the space and environment and the drugs necessary to have a good party is always going to have high status in a group, right? And that goes as well for the elites, but because they're so desensitized to partying and having everything they want, they also go into these more sadistic territories. Um, and the result of all of these deals is, of course, financial crimes, crimes against humanity, international crimes, and avoiding accountability. So through these deals, they can cheat all the financial rules we have in the economy. They can cheat all of the rules that we have to protect children and women and human rights. And they can cheat the international system. They can cheat sovereign borders. And of course, they can cheat the judge, right? They don't have to ever face accountability. And as an ending call, I was thinking a lot about how do we unify people around this issue?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I go out now and I say arrest Donald Trump, then immediately my fellow working class man will point the finger back at me and say, Donald Trump, it seems like he was enemies with Jeffrey Epstein.
Mhm,
You should just go
mhm.
and arrest Bill Clinton instead. Or, if I say Israel, then you might say Russia, blah, 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 blah. So I thought, what is one person that we can all agree to hate on?
Yeah.
And one person that we can all agree should go to prison. And my goal here, right? Let me be very clear. My goal is not to arrest this person and then the whole problem will be finished. My goal is to use this as practice
Mm-hmm.
in order for the working class to remember that we have power. And as soon as this person is arrested, we go for the next.
Yeah.
So my call
This
is
is just the first domino,
yes,
right? Yeah.
arrest Bill. I almost said the wrong name. Arrest Bill Gates.
Yeah.
That is my fighting call. Arrest Bill Gates. If you're on the right wing, you should have no problem with this. If you're on the left wing, you should have no
Yeah,
problem with this.
Exactly. During COVID, the hate for Bill Gates started from the more like
Who-
alt-right corner. So yeah.
Who is going to be here to defend Bill Gates? No one.
No.
All right? He is a pedophile. You need to arrest him, investigate him, and then convict him. And we need to put pressure. Start with one person that we can all agree
Yeah.
on. And as soon as he's arrested, we go on to the next. Whether that's Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, doesn't really matter. Just start with one, and then we keep going. I think every time you bring up this question, you should end the conversation. If it's your friend, your family, your colleague, I don't care. End the conversation with, yeah, they should really arrest Bill Gates. Because it's obvious that he's committed many counts of crimes based on these emails.
For the people here in the Netherlands, they might remember the case of Marc Dutroux, which
Mhm.
was a guy. Do you know about it or
No,
not
no.
at all? That was a guy in Belgium, and he kidnapped and killed and raped several girls over the span of years.
Yeah.
And it was always kept as like a one-off case. It was just him doing this.
Right.
But there's interviews with a woman from Belgium. Her name is Regina Louf.
Mm-hmm.
These interviews are on YouTube, and as well some investigations by journalists that actually suggest that Marc Dutroux was the criminal who kidnapped girls for these kind of pedophile
Exactly,
rings sometimes.
Exactly.
And Regina Louf is a victim of this kind of circle. And sometimes the way she tells things is hard to follow because she's heavily traumatized. But some psychiatrists also cross-checked her story and at least said, well, there's some parts that you cannot really explain, but the story itself does make sense. There's no internal contradictions. And also she pointed to a place where she said one of the victims of this crime ring was buried, a young girl, and they went to this farm to dig, and they did find this girl.
Yeah.
So parts of her story at least are true, and it's very interesting to think about.
Storm arrest Bill Gates and storm the ranch in Mexico. That's my two calls that I think if you're trying to unify people and if you feel like, okay, we need to do something about it, then these two things are a great starting point from a strategic point of view.
Sure.
Yeah. It's been Eurozone. We talked for 45 hours about Jeffrey Epstein because there's 3 million emails. If you want to look through them, go to Dropsite News. They have developed the J-mail, they call it, which is the Jeffrey Epstein email, where you can go through it all yourself. we need as many hands on deck right now, sorting through things, decoding things, so you can so we can get as much information out there as possible. Don't drive yourself crazy. Don't be shocked. We've known that they're savages since forever. There are things we can do about it. So keep your sane mind, and try to refrain from drawing any big conclusions around Satanism or any other spiritual motives until we have more proof, because the truth is you don't need it. It doesn't really matter exactly why they did it. We know they did it. We know who they are, where they live, and they need to be arrested, and we know where to find the evidence. So we can push on that front already. Anything else is just noise for now, but we will update you if we find out what's going on. Yeah. Arrest Bill Gates.
Yeah, you picked the right one. Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. This is truly the one that left and right maybe can rally around. So
yeah, I thought about it for a while. I was like, which one of these? Yeah. Who would you say would go after that?
Well, maybe Bill Clinton would be a good next. I don't think he has a lot of love from either side as well.
Yeah, I think throw the Clintons in jail, right?
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
Surely. Yeah. Because who's gonna protect Hillary Clinton?
Nobody.
Who's gonna?
No, like people like Bill Clinton even more after all he did and how shitty he is. They still like him more than Hillary Clinton because she's just very uncharismatic. That, and it's really bad to maybe judge a person on that, but she has no charisma.
Yeah. That's also something interesting with these files is just how much charisma works. You know?
Yeah.
It's really crazy. I don't know, like I've talked to people from China before, or I've seen at least interesting conversations where they ridicule a bit how the West works. Because it's almost like they don't quite understand how talking gives you that much importance, like just being good at speaking. Like this one Chinese analyst said, in China we have industries about resource extraction, about manufacturing, and the people that lead those industries are the smartest people who are good at doing that. In Europe, especially in the UK, the only industries we have are the sounding good industries. Like if you sound good, then that's your job, is to just sound smart. Like either you're giving speeches, you're doing lectures, you're doing business deals, but whatever you're doing, the most important skill that you have is sounding smart. And I think we value this way too much.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I think we should teach people not to follow the smartest sounding person.
Yeah.
And instead follow, I don't know who or don't follow. I don't know what to do.
Follow
instead.
people with good virtues.
Yeah, follow people.
But then we must first define what even are our virtues as a culture, because that's also not so concrete, and the virtues that you can explicitly find are all more like wealth and money accumulation related than actual virtues. So
it's strange, right? It's but that's kind of the work that you need to do as a society is who do we view as, but what do we view as good values? I think that's been lost a bit, and then in its place it's whoever shines the brightest. Who
you should discuss it first, right? You should open the conversation first, and I think the conversation is not even being held. The conversation is not done about what values are and what we should define maybe as our values. So the smart guy just being able to talk your way through life and power. That's maybe that wasn't the smartest choice of the West. I think we're gonna have to skip one of these topics, but maybe we can do one more. Oh, you have a really
man, I have a super in-depth Iran video here. I don't know if we want to march through it. The good thing is it doesn't have as many links, so we can just go
Okay.
topic by topic.
Let's try to be quick. It's so hard. Oh my god.
Yeah. Actually, usually I'm the one that's trying to rush it, and you were the one going into different details. But now today, especially, I feel like it's the other way around. Wasim in the chat says, "Hello, sweetie." Hello, Wasim. Hello. Okay. For you, we're gonna keep streaming another 3 hours. There. Iran, very proud of you guys. Oh, I am very proud of you guys, not Iran. Thank you, Wasim. Yeah, we. Oh my God! All of a sudden, there's 5 people in here. Yeah, guys, we're gonna.
Sim brought his friends.
He brought his friends. We're gonna go into the Iran war.
Mhm.
So we're gonna record a video, but feel free to ask something. I have your chat here on my screen, and we do pause and answer questions if they are relevant. I know there was one guy hating on me on Instagram who came with some pretty okay points.
Only
around
one?
Iran. A few around my Iran takes.
Hmm.
And yeah, I would love to actually have them be in the chat so that we
Mhm.
could kind of get challenged.
Yeah.
That's also nice. Yeah. Okay. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's go.
This is gonna be. Let's. What's the goal? 40 minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice goal.
All right. Europe and the United States is looking to send another generation to war over oil in Iran. And they were prepared to do it, but have backed down twice. And in this video, we're going to look at why exactly they want to go to war, what's happening inside of Iran, and how you should feel about it. Because you might either be empathizing a lot with the protesters who are being shot down in Iran, or because of Palestine, you might be empathizing with any group that claims to be anti-imperialist and just wanting to see the Western Empire collapse. We're Eurozone, and we're here to walk your hand through the news. We're a completely private, homemade,
Owned by Palantir.
yeah, owned and operated by volunteers. We're complete independent media. We don't take funding from anyone. We don't even take donations. So everything we say here is for the love of the game. Now, in the last month, there was twice that the U.S. was very close to going to war with Iran. The first time, it was very clear that Iran saw it as an existential threat. So they answered
Mhm.
through private channels saying, hey, if we go to war now, we're seriously going to go to war. It's
Mhm.
not going to be one of these coordinated responses where you know beforehand where we're striking at what time.
Mhm.
So you get to shoot down all the missiles. We get our propaganda piece saying that we're defending our country, and you guys get your propaganda piece saying that you're shooting down our missiles, right?
Mhm.
This time it's going to be for real. And it sounds like when Israel heard that, they got nervous because the American Navy, which is essential to shoot down these missiles, was stationed in Venezuela and not close to Israel.
Mm.
So the first time, at least if you believe Dropsite News and what they've been reporting, which I think are one of the best reporters on these matters, if you believe them, it sounds like Israel was the one who called it off. Because they did not think that there was enough U.S. presence in the region to defend them. The second time, the American fleet arrives, and this is when I said, okay, they're going to go to war, because once the American fleet was there, the blocker stopping the first round of escalation was no longer a blocker, right? Because you have the American Navy there. Top Israelis fled the country, including, I think, Netanyahu's wife, who went to Florida. We saw those photos. And it really seemed like, okay, it's about to happen. But then all of a sudden there's peace talks, and Donald Trump basically is pushing forward this deal, which is very close to the Obama deal.
Mhm.
And it looks like the monarchs in the area got very nervous, and they were the ones who stepped in and said, look, if you go to war with Iran, we're not going to support you personally, Donald Trump. Like, you're not going to get all the donations that you're getting from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Let me be clear, Saudi Arabia and Qatar are not good friends of Iran.
Nope.
But a war in Iran would be horrible for them because it's right on their doorstep. They would have all those refugees. There would be a lot of internal power struggle. There would be a civil war, most likely. And there would be no more counterbalance to Israel, which these two nations are still the strongest in the region. So the Arab monarchies actually are a lot more comfortable and would have it better off with the status quo continue.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Do you think there's
It's quite easy for Iran, right, to invade the Gulf countries, or at least disrupt the Gulf countries to a large extent in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. They can do two things. They can close the Strait of
Hormuz, I think.
Hormuz,
Yeah.
Which is the third largest trading route in the world. And they can blow up Saudi Arabian oil refineries pretty easily.
Yeah.
And then all of Saudi Arabia's economy stops quite fast. So these countries, although they are completely neutral against Israel, sometimes even pro-Israel, and although they don't like the Iranian theocracy,
they do have something to lose.
They have a lot to lose.
They have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And the Americans, actually, they don't have skin in the game. They don't care so much.
Same with Turkey, for example, right? Like the Syrian civil war was disastrous for all of these countries. And it gave space for a lot of, the Kurdish, the Syrian, a lot of different Syrian factions to arm themselves, to get good at fighting, and to all of a sudden be dangerous to the neighboring countries. Whereas the Saudi Arabian and the Qatari military are completely undertrained. They are overfunded and undertrained. Qatari citizens do not want to go to war because they're all used to being rich and living off of slave labor. There is no big population of Qatari nationals that can go to war.
Would have to be at least half of them would have to be mercenaries to even fill the ranks.
Exactly. When they fought, the last time these countries fought, a majority of their force were mercenaries. So when you're a country that can only rely on money, a civil war in one of the biggest neighboring countries is disastrous because you don't really have a protection mechanism against the outcomes of that civil war, right? Why is this all happening now? So why were the Americans and Israelis pushing for it? Well, because there was protests inside of Iran. And this is the part that gets a little bit tricky because on one hand, of course, I have empathy for any group of people that protest, right? I know what it's like to protest for education, for climate change, for Palestine. And I know what it's like for the police to respond violently. And in any and all occasions, 1312, we don't fuck with the police. So I don't care if you're from Iran or from Amsterdam. Leave the policeman at home because all they do is bring more violence to the streets, and they should not be repressing protests. Of course, it gets very tricky because some of the protests had infiltrants from Israel. This was openly discussed in Channel 14 News. And Israel and the US were arming the infiltrants to hand out guns, and some of the protests then, with the help of the Israeli infiltrants, turned into violent riots. And violence doesn't mean fireworks. It means shooting, so armed shooting, where they killed a bunch of policemen and also other protesters.
There was also, I read that Iranian civilians were offered money to just burn mosques or burn some other government building or whatever.
Absolutely. They were vandalizing and terrorism. Basically, some of the protests turned into terrorists. And of course, as a state, you need to respond, right? You need to, again, it's difficult for me because I have to be like, okay, rule of law kind of matters. If protesters are arming themselves and shooting random people, then the state needs to respond. But on the other hand, I am usually on the side of the protesters. So if some protesters started shooting the police and then the police shoot me, I would be pissed off, right? That's what I'm gonna say about that. But the reason the protesters were out in the streets, the legitimate reasons, let's say, is a failed economy, Islamic rule, that they're tired of Islamic rule, they're tired of corruption, and because of these infiltrants that are making everything worse. Now, the important part, as someone living in the West, is to say, I understand the legitimate frustrations of the Iranian people, but my role as a Western European is to stop making those situations worse, because my government and my tax money leads to all of the issues that the Iranian people are protesting against. For example, the failed economy is because of sanctions. So that is something that we have manufactured. The Islamic rule is a reaction to the Shah and the imperialism that we imposed upon them. So if it was not for European and American intervention, there would be no Islamic rule in Iran. The corruption, that one, okay, might be genuine incompetence.
Also, corruption a lot of times stems from sanctions, because you
Yeah.
need to have a smuggle routes and dark networks to
That's true.
get the
That's
stuff
true.
you need, and that feeds corruption as well.
Yeah, and I would also say, exactly, once you have a failed economy and once you have a reactionary movement in power,
Mhm.
it's natural that
Yeah.
corruption comes as a third one. Since we are at fault for the first two root causes, even though it's easy to point the finger at Iran
Mhm.
for having corrupt officials, we created the environment where corruption would
Yeah.
be necessary,
Yeah.
right? And of course, with all the infiltrants that we then push in with arms, we're making everything even worse. So I hope that helps explain a bit how a leftist person can feel about this issue, right? We're against imperialism, and imperialism caused all the issues in Iran. So we definitely can't do more of that. But I'm also not going to sit here and say that if I was in Iran, I wouldn't be one of the protesters on the street.
Mhm.
Because, of course, if my country got ruled by Christian fascists who don't believe in democracy but only the Pope, and the Pope got to decide everything, and you couldn't protest against the Pope, and on Sunday we all had to wear crosses, and if you don't wear your cross, you get beat up. Like, I would never accept that.
I might be able to accept it if we are able to arm ourselves and fight the American army. Then I might even be able to accept that. But not everybody should.
No, but that's, thank God for that example,
Mhm.
because that is exactly how the Islamic rule came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're
Yeah.
saying is, I would never accept Christian authoritarianism in my country, unless these Christian authoritarians
We're the ones
kicking out,
protecting sovereignty,
Yes.
fighting the imperialists.
Unless-
yes, then I would join them.
unless they
Yeah.
were the only option to fight the Americans. Then all of a sudden they become attractive, and that is what is going on here as well. So the legitimacy of the Islamic rule of the Ayatollah comes from protecting sovereignty. There is an idea based on history, lots and lots of history, and we're going to go through it in Iran. There is an idea based on that history that the only people who can protect and who have ever been able to protect Iranian sovereignty is the Islamic clergy class, the Ayatollah and the and his guard, right? Who are they protecting their sovereignty from? Obviously, America and Israel. We just saw the most recent bombing in 2025, and every time they get attacked, the Islamic rule gains legitimacy. They're also defending their sovereignty against ISIS and other separatist movements, who are also, as we now know, funded by Israel and the United States. So again, another group. And they also see themselves as defending their sovereignty from Western ideology, because we don't only wage war in the West through guns and machinery. We also wage cultural wars, where we say all of your music, all of your film, all of your ideas about life are invalid. Here is Hollywood instead, right? And what do they see as the ideology of the West that they're trying to protect their people from? Hedonism, capitalism, satanism, right? And when the Epstein files come out and show all the pedophilia that's going on, you kind of start to understand where this protectionist Islamic worldview comes from. It's easy to say the theocratic people who only believe what the imam says, that those people are backwards and
Mhm.
reserved.
Mhm.
But when the imam says, well, look at the alternative. If you don't listen to God and only look for joy in life, you become a hedonist who does a lot of drugs, who chases money, and if you get to the top, you become a pedophile.
Mhm.
And that is no life of virtue. So therefore, in order to protect our population, we can't have anything from the West. We can't have enjoyment. We can't have music. We can't have, games. We can't do any of it because it ends in Epstein.
Mhm.
That's where this sort of behavior goes. And as time goes on, I think people should start to recognize the legitimacy of anti-Western, anti-liberal views.
Mhm.
Because sure, maybe it's not difficult. There's a death sentence for being gay in Iran, and people struggle with that. But the justification for having those people in power who make homosexuality illegal
Mhm.
is because what we're offering is just abuse of the wealthy.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just whoever has the most power gets to do anything they want. So they need some sort of rule-based order that they can use to defend against this Western ideology, right? And they get the clergy, the Ayatollah, get their strength through religious cohesion, their nuclear program, their ballistic missiles, and their control over oil. So this is just to show you a little bit about the current state in Iran, right? You have the Ayatollah, who is protecting themselves against Western invasion, and this is why they have legitimacy. And to fight this war, they need religious cohesion because that's the only thing keeping everyone agreed on being part of this one rule. They have a nuclear program in order to constantly scare the West off, because as soon as you have a nuclear bomb, you no longer need a military. As we see, nobody invades North Korea. They have ballistic missiles, and of course their oil production. And this one is super important because keeping control of the oil means that you have a way to finance everything you need to do militarily. You have a way to finance the economy, and the Americans and Europeans hate that fact because, as we're going to see in the history, it all starts with oil. Did I miss anything out?
No.
No, that's
No.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. How much do you know about the Iranians' history?
I think like superficial knowledge of just the British being heavily involved in the country
Yeah,
for a long
yeah.
time through the British Petroleum Company, BP,
Yeah,
and then, well, this I would say constant struggle, right, between self-determination, autonomy, and Western influence.
yeah.
That's pretty typical. The dynamic also you see, for example, in Turkey, where Ataturk then decides to align more with the West at some point, but then you also see a move back in recent years.
Yeah.
Because they don't want conflict, obviously, as well. They want to work well with the rest of the world, but they don't want to submit fully, because they are legitimate, powerful countries in their own right, both Turkey and Iran.
Yeah, and it's funny how you describe Turkey, right? With Ataturk, who is secular, wants to be more European, and then you have the counter movement, which is always more Islamist.
Yeah.
And again, guys, like that's not a coincidence, right? You
No.
have the reason is because Western culture comes with no faith in God, with a lot about free liberties. Do what makes you happy, do what feels good, and capitalism. And there's a lot of Islamic capitalist societies, but in Islam there is a little structure to what you can and can't do with money. How you can and can't exploit someone with money, right? You can't, in theory, borrow with interest rates and everything. So there is a little like safeguard there that just makes it impossible for anyone who is a serious devout Islamic person to adhere to the Western system, because you can't screw over a whole village in order to make a little extra
it's
money.
not compatible, right?
It's
if you really
incompatible.
follow the financial laws of Islam, then you cannot adopt fully to the capitalist system. It's impossible.
Yeah. So that moral barrier creates this constant dilemma where, unfortunately, then the more reactionary Islamic fundamentalists are seen as the only legitimate counterpoint, with one exception, which is, of course, the communists. But as we're going to see in history, they get thrown down by both sides.
Yeah.
So look, I'm going to walk you through as quickly as I can all of Iran's history from 1925 until today. So let's see.
And
how
there's
this-
only like 4 or 5 stages, so
yeah,
yeah.
it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. So why we described the current situation? How did we get here? Why is the Ayatollah in charge, and why not anyone else? So in 1925, they had the Qajar dynasty, which came to an end, and this is basically an old monarchy, right? Anything before this is normal history, and now we're going to go into modern history. So this dynasty ends in 1925, and the Shah Reza takes takes over his place, basically takes over the country of Iran, and remains neutral throughout World War II. So this was a very interesting Shah because he was rapidly industrializing the country. He wanted more sovereignty, and refused to take part in World War II by allying with either one side or the other. Instead, he used the rise of the German Nazis to get a lot of technology from Germany and also provide a lot of oil to the Germans. So, of course, in 1941, right in the middle of World War II, the British and the Soviets, the USSR, together invade Iran and take out the Shah. And now they make a very similar move to what Donald Trump is doing in Venezuela now. So they get rid of the Shah and instead put in his son. So they're saying, let's keep all the institutions as is, but we just put the son in because he's more naive, he has less power, and now we have a strong hand to negotiate. The son of the Shah was only in his 20s, but he's called Mohammad Reza. And he takes power in 1941, appointed by the British and the Soviet Union. And this is a interesting part, right? Because rarely have you had a country invaded by both the Brits and the Soviets, apart from Nazi Germany, of course. But this also roots a lot of communist movements inside of Iran, which will come into play a bit later. In this time, under the Shah, the oil is completely owned by British Petroleum, so BP. A tiny bit of the profits goes to the Shah himself, and of course, none of it goes to the people. And the workers under British Petroleum are under colonial rules, basically. So they are completely abused. They have very little. They have terrible working conditions, and they have very little democratic rights. And of course, this becomes a sort of humiliation. It's described as the national humiliation of Iran. And the Shah was very comfortable with the system because it meant that he continued to have power. And he didn't have to fight for it very hard because the British and the Soviet armies would come defend him. And he got money from all the oil, right? He didn't have to manage the oil because that's being done by the British. All he had to do was cash in a check every month or every year in return for giving complete control of the oil over to the British and the British. And this is a very, very classic old colonial story, right? Or neo-colonial
This
story.
is really like the true puppet, right? He
Yeah.
just sits and he becomes more lazy and more comfortable, and the whole country loses. Even during his reign, the country loses more and more its ability
Yeah.
to even independently exploit the oil fields.
Yeah.
The longer it takes, the more dependent the whole country becomes on the colonial exploiter.
Yeah, exactly. So just to underline the first point you're mentioning there of the two-step classic colonial story, you find a corrupt person to put in charge of the country, and the reason that person is so happy being corrupt is because one, they know that if they say no to the corruption, they get killed.
Yeah.
There is no alternative.
Yeah.
And two, it's very comfortable doing nothing and getting money for it and being the leader of the country, right? You get all the glory without having to face any consequences. Now, here comes step 2 of the classic colonial story. Because the UK and the USSR had just defeated the Nazis, and because they invaded, the public story was, we invaded your country because you were allied with Hitler, and therefore we had to impose someone who is not fascist, right? Or fascist adjacent. Therefore, in order to keep up the optics of Western diplomacy, they introduce a little bit of democracy in Iran. Just little hints here and there. They also introduce a little bit of
Let's
education.
do a parliament with very limited power.
Exactly. So they
Obviously.
exactly. So they create this parliament, and in 1951, Mossadegh becomes prime minister. Now, Mossadegh is a nationalist lawyer who is not necessarily communist, but he's probably he's more a social democrat.
Yeah.
But he's living in a country where now a lot of communist parties are starting to take root, because you have this colonial underclass of workers. You have the clear exploitative class. You have the monarchs. So a lot of the classic power struggles and struggle of ideas that we see in this era, in the Cold World era, are also in Iran. So this guy who's nationalistic, a bit communist, definitely on the left, and a lawyer, he wins the parliament votes to become prime minister, and he comes with an amazing idea, which is, let's nationalize the oil. Right? So the British and the USSR, the West in general, overthrow your government in order to impose someone that's going to bring democracy and freedom to you. And when you use that democracy and freedom to nationalize the oil, then of course what happens?
Too much democracy for you.
A military coup.
Let's take it back.
Instantly, right?
Yeah.
So this guy comes in. And right before we get to the coup, we kind of have this power struggle where the Shah wants the British support and stability because he wants to continue earning money. Britain wants to keep control of their oil, right? And they want BP to have full rights to the oil in Iran. Mossadegh, which is the prime minister, Mossadegh, wants oil sovereignty and parliamentary power. So he's in direct conflict with the Shah, right? They both want power over the country. And Tudeh, which is the communists in Iran, supported Mossadegh because he weakens the monarchy and Western intervention, right? So the communists and the prime minister are they're not exactly aligned, but in this situation, they have the same goals: nationalize the oil,
Mossadegh
get
is
rid of the
like
monarchy.
I think maybe some perfect example of some kind of Frankenstein politician in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Where it's like you become the powerful person, not because you are the one that everyone wants, but because all the other parties don't want the other one.
Exactly. And that's something we're going to see again and again. So, exactly. And Mossadegh, who was secular and was not for Islamic rule, you will see how the need for someone like that fighting for sovereignty remains, and that's where the Ayatollah steps in, because this guy eventually fails, and then you need an alternative.
They should have gone with Mossadegh.
I mean, they did. They voted him as prime minister.
But then they... but I mean like the American-British...
of course.
Yeah.
But the issue would be then the private company of British Petroleum would not be able to earn money. And this is in 1951, by the way. So we should already be inside of the democratic age of Europe. So think about that. Because a private company from colonial rule who got their power not from competing in the market, but from colonial rule, British Petroleum, because they wanted to maintain the oil rights to make more private profits in Iran, they overthrew a democratically elected person and instead put back the Shah. And because of that power struggle, all this time later, we're about to go to war with Iran, and they might send you and me to fight. So
there's actually you can draw the direct link between 1951 and now. Like the ones before, they are also related to today, of course, but I think this is maybe the point where you really see that there's a point of no return.
Yeah, exactly. This is really I mean, we've already done one point, which is overthrowing the existing Shah, and that's already cutting straight in and fucking up the situation.
Yeah.
And now now you're tangled for life, basically.
Yeah.
Because the next thing that happens is the British go to the Americans to ask for help, and the Americans are eager to get involved because now, after World War II, they also need to take charge in this empire and get their own oil access. And the Americans are, of course, dead scared of communism. So they think, in this power struggle, if the Shah falls, or if the Mossadegh, who is a leftist leader, wins, then it could be a gateway for communism to come in and take control of Iran. So what do? The CIA and the MI6, the American and British intelligence agencies, overthrow the prime minister, Mossadegh, and restore the Shah into dictatorship. And so basically, they created the democracy. Once somebody came out as a strong leader of the democracy, they overthrow him and take away the democracy. Like that's like the language here is quite dramatic, coup, overthrowing, but it's really not, because it's just they're overthrowing the system that they just set up 10 years earlier. Like it really wasn't that long ago. It's 10 years ago, right? And in this coup, they restore the Shah dictatorship, and the reason is that all alternatives that they had seen on the table were completely unacceptable, right? Nationalism was not acceptable because then they couldn't take the oil. Social democracy was unacceptable because then they couldn't take the oil. Communists were unacceptable because they couldn't take the oil and they're communists. Socialists, same. And the secular were also, I don't know if they're unacceptable, but problematic. Because all of the communists, the socialists, and the social democrats, and some of the nationalists were secular. So this whole movement kind of got thrown in together, and this is when the secular leftist in Iran dies. This is when that movement dies, and this is why we don't have a secular leftist Iran with a liberal social democracy or even a communist state as it could have become. This is what China overcame, but Iran was never able to overcome.
Here you can see the parallel again, right, with Syria and Iraq, where Saddam Hussein and Assad, you may think of them as bad people, that's perfectly fine, but the political movement they came from was largely secular and slightly leftist socialist. But all these movements had to be destroyed for some reason.
So in the 50s, right, which is 70 years ago, the people fighting the Western imperialists were secular leftist socialists, and many of them communists. But they all disappeared. So it is not by coincidence that the only resistance left becomes the Islamic fundamentalists. Because all of the seculars have been cut out of society. So how did that happen? After the coup in 1953, all of the leftist movements were oppressed. Classic stories: arrest, torture, and death. There was a mass slaughtering, thousands of protesters, of leftist protesters. The Shah created a new secret police called the Savak. And there was no more democracy. It was a direct monarchy with the Shah having complete rule. And this Shah was propped up by close ties with the Western alliances, right? So NATO at this point, still Britain and the US. And of course, there was no sovereignty over any of the resources. The only change is that now the US and other Western countries also got to have part of the cut. So it's interesting here. It's just a little, it's a little bubble that shows also the classic story of the resources first being taken by the colony, so the state of Britain. Then it becomes a private company, but it's still British petroleum. And now it becomes the capitalist free market, where it's all of the Western companies, not just the British. There was obviously no socialism or communism anymore, so all of the social programs were taken away. There was no theocracy, so they also made religion a lot more strict and took away power from the clergy. So They introduced secular courts instead of Islamic courts, and they did education reform where the Islamic leaders were no longer the primary teachers. And the most important one, they made it illegal to gather a group of people and to organize. So if you and I wanted to organize a protest, as soon as we hit the number of 10 or 20 people, the police would come and beat the shit out of us and arrest all of us, right?
Yeah.
But where you could still meet in groups was the mosque.
Yeah.
That was the only place left in society where you could gather more than 20 people and have serious conversations about life, about spirituality, and about politics.
So the religious places became the only option as a political forum.
Of course.
Yeah.
And all other leaders, democratic leaders, have been kicked out. So it's natural that if you're looking for alternatives, you fall back on your more cultural leaders that have been there throughout many hundreds of years, which are the Muslim scholars and imams and ayatollahs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this was the state of Iran under the Western-backed Shah, and what follows is a revolution again in 1979. So very much like Palestine, by the way. Like again, the story of Iran echoes throughout all of Western history, because you have first the democratic attempt, where we say, okay, you know what? We don't like that you guys came in here, kicked in the door, and told us what to do. But some of your ideas around everyone should vote and parliament, it's interesting. We'll give it a try. And then, okay, we found our guy, and this is what we want to do with our country. And then the West says,
No,
are you fucking
not this
crazy?
one. You picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Not that one.
Yeah, are you insane? Well, you can't be nationalizing your oil. You want to build social programs? Did somebody say communist? Like, like then instantly that gets disallowed, and then you go straight back to authoritarianism, and they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter how the fuck you rule the people, just rule them and make sure that we can extract our oil, right? Which is why oil throughout consistently from World War II until today, every single year, the number one decision was on how can we exploit the resources. Anytime they try to tell you that it's about human rights or democracy or freedoms, or even in this case women's rights, know that they are lying, because these are the same people that have showed us time and time again that they do not care about any of these values, right? So in 1979 there was a revolution against the Shah, and basically the leftist seculars, so whatever was left of the communist and socialist after they were purged, and the new youth, the students, and the conservative reactionary Islamists all joined forces because they all wanted to overthrow the Shah. And so you saw a very rare alliance between the leftist and Islamist revolutionaries. And this alliance was based on being against Western imperialism, against corruption, against oil prices and inflation, and against Western liberal culture, which is very ironic because apart from the culture part, this is all the same things that people are protesting against today, right? They don't want corruption and they don't want the inflation. Same issues that people are on the street protesting today, which is part of a larger point, but basically economy.
But a lot of times also, I would say most of the times, these are the main reasons that a decisive mass of the people get mobilized to protest in a way that could be effective, is when it's about these things that hit almost everyone, and everyone suffers from them.
Because we can all go about our life, like even with the Epstein files or whatever, we can all continue to live our life normally. It doesn't affect your immediate surroundings until your money isn't worth anything and you can't buy food. That is when people get hungry. That is when you have nothing to lose, because if I do nothing, I might starve in 2 or 3 days. But if I revolt, maybe we find some bread along the way, So the same themes that people are angry about now were also the same themes they were angry about back then. And that is when they joined forces and overthrew the Shah, basically by protesting. And in the protests, the Shah would crack down. They would kill a bunch of protesters. Then the protesters would get angry, come with more people, more killings, more people, and that kind of kept going. However, once the revolution was over, the Islamic faction won, and then this turned their backs on the leftists and repressed any secular movements. And the reason they could do that is because the leftists had been thrown down so drastically by the Shah for now 20 years, right?
The whole infrastructure for oppressing the leftist movement was already there. They just had to pick up where the Shah left off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So look at it from a Persian perspective, right? From someone in Iran. It's very rare in these times that your country would go from electing a social democratic secular leftist as your prime minister, and then 20 years later wanting to be ruled by a theocratic Islamic I wouldn't say fundamentalist, because they're not quite there, right? They do have they let women go to university. They have some of the highest university participation rates around the world when it comes to women, and they have a lot of freedom. So it's not super fundamentalist, but still Islamic rule, right? So that shift is not a coincidence. It's not that in 20 years everyone started going against the global movement. You know, as media and the world was evolving, there was a natural movement away from God, right? It's not like the Iranians all of a sudden decided to go the other way. There is a historical reason, and the reason is Western intervention, both in terms of why there was a need for a revolution, but also why the wrong guys won that revolution. The last thing I want to say on this revolution is that part of it was that they stormed the embassy, the American embassy in Tehran, and in there they seized a bunch of archives and documents. So the first thing they found, which was very concrete, is proof that the CIA and MI6 coordinated the Shah coup back in 1953. So they found concrete proof that the Americans and the British overthrew their prime minister that they had elected democratically. Yeah. And this is not something you can skip over. If you've just had a revolution and the outcome of the revolution is black on white proof that the people trying to bring democracy and freedom to your country were involved in overthrowing your democratic leader because of oil, then forget about ever convincing them again that you want them to be democratic. Yeah. And also, even today, like with Venezuela, nobody is pretending to want democracy in Iran. Maybe the protesters themselves, but no one outside. When Israel or the United States or the Europeans talk about Iran, they talk about reinstating the Shah, the same Shah who was the brutal dictator. Yeah. So no one from the West cares or is even cares enough to pretend to want democracy in Iran. So definitely don't believe them on that point. And the second thing they found in the embassy during this revolution was proof that they were constantly operating against leftist parties. So again, everything that we're saying is backed up by documents found in the American embassy. And these documents nowadays in Tehran are displayed in a museum so that you can go and see it yourself. So think about, if you step out of your Western logic for a second, think about what that means for a country, right? Like, imagine the Chinese came here, imposed a random person as a dictator, and then you overthrow that dictator.
They put Mona Kaiser as the prime minister. Yeah. Oh my God.
Actually, okay. Let's explain it in this way. I've been doing this exercise recently where I flip everything on its head to get people in the West to understand how ridiculous they sound. Right? Imagine Xi Jinping came to the UK, right? And he said, guys, I am here to bring communism. And then he elects Jeff Bezos, or he appoints Jeff Bezos as the ruler of the UK. And Jeff Bezos runs the country like an anarcho-capitalist hellscape, right? And then the people have had enough. They overthrow Jeff Bezos. And what do they find? They find concrete proof that the Communist Party of China was the one who put in Jeff Bezos. And then the communists the Chinese have the audacity to tell you again, no, don't, you guys can't do this revolution. You have to go back to what you did earlier because
Mhm.
communism is good. And you would be like, man, you're making a word salad out of big
Mhm.
terms, and we know none of it is true. Like what, like communism, democracy, freedom, whatever word you use is just a word hiding your real intent, which is that you want our
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, after this revolution of 1979, it's going to take a long time to convince the Iranians to to trust anything the West has to say. And I think that leads us to modern day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now we have modern times. So again, the main motivation nowadays, because over time the Ayatollah and the theocracy in Iran, it shifted a bit, right? Like any revolution. In the first years, it's very ideological. We're here because we care about Islamic rule.
Mhm.
We care about sovereignty, blah, blah, blah. But as time goes on, as corruption happens, as the original thought leaders die and then their sons replace them, eventually you get more a watered down version, which is more about let's stay in power and make sure we don't die, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that is the situation. So that part of the story is like in any other country, right? If one group of elites rule for too long, eventually they get complacent and they pass the power on to their sons. Their sons don't have the same lived experiences as their parents, so they don't have any reason to be ideological. They just like having power and being born into money. And we're now at that stage in Iran, which is why a lot of the core fan base or loyal groups of the Islamic rule are turning against them because they can tell that even that part of their story is no longer adding up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Iran. The only thing I left out was the nuclear treaties and all of the sanctions.
You can make a whole episode about that, I think. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm quickly gonna list the dates
Mhm.
because it summarizes everything we talked about. But just to close off, like just year by year, so you understand how ridiculous it is for the West to pretend that they are in a position now to lecture Iran.
Yeah, exactly. When the sanctions go on and when they
Yeah,
go off.
Exactly.
It happens to coincide perfectly
Yeah.
with when we get your oil and when we don't get
Exactly.
your oil.
So what they will tell you is that the reason we do sanctions is because they're building a nuclear bomb. And now what you're gonna see here is that there's no correlation between these two. So 1950 to 1968, Iran starts civil nuclear research a program with the help of the United States. So this was under the Shah, right?
Yeah.
So under the Shah, the Americans are happy to help the Iranians start a research program. In 1968, still under the Shah, Iran joins the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Fuck it. And this is basically a treaty saying that we're not going to build nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Now, 1979, sanctions after revolution. So we have the revolution in 1979, and immediately the Americans and the British impose sanctions, right? So when it was the other guy in charge, the Shah, they were happy to help them develop nuclear programs. As soon as the wrong guy is in charge, sanctions.
So it's more than 40 years of sanctions.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane.
1984, more sanctions. 1995, more sanctions. 2003, U.S. U.S. accuses them of developing nukes. So before, we already had 4 rounds of sanctions.
Yeah.
Before the United States ever officially accuses Iran of developing nuclear weapons. In 2006, more sanctions. In 2010 to 2013, there was 3 more rounds of sanctions, and this time they became international. So this would be sanctions also ratified by the UN. And that all culminates in 2015 because the economy is going so bad. The Iranians come to the table, they make a deal, and they make the Obama nuclear deal, which basically says you can have nuclear weapons for, not nuclear weapons, you can have nuclear programs for civil reasons, nuclear energy, but you cannot build nuclear weapons, and we're going to enforce that by having American and UN inspectors go in to check on what you're doing in your nuclear programs, which was an okay solution because at the end of the day, the nuclear program was set up by America in the 50s. So obviously, I mean, this is a technology everyone wants to have. Any big nation would want to have. So how can we ensure that you're not discriminated against just because we're scared of you, right? Basically because of racism, while also making sure you're not building a nuclear bomb.
And
Yeah.
there was a little bit of sanctions relief attached to the Obama deal,
Exactly.
I believe, right?
So the Obama deal gives sanction relief, of course, for nuclear materials,
Mhm.
for oil,
Mhm.
which is very convenient, right? So all of the resources that have to go from Iran to the rest of the world, that's where we relieve sanctions.
Yeah.
But if you want to buy medicine from another country, forget about it. Right.
Yeah.
So very hard.
This is one of the most criminal types of sanctions, right? To
Yeah.
be banning a country from buying medication, it's just murder on a great scale. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. But then 3 years later, right? So imagine all of this history you have with the US and they're constantly fucking with you. And then finally you achieve some sort of deal under Obama. 3 years later, tiny blip when you look at the whole history of
Yeah.
Iran. Trump comes in and withdraws from the deal immediately.
He just says, no.
No, yeah. So Trump himself withdrew from the deal without cause.
Yeah.
There was not a single inspection that showed that the Iranians were building nukes.
No, they didn't even pretend or like make up some kind of pretext for throwing the deal. He just did it.
He just
That's
did it just like that. And then 2000 to 2020, so 2018 to 2020, what happens is more sanctions with maximum pressure, was Trump's exact words.
But apparently there was more maximum. Because they added
then
some
at
more in
25,
2025.
they put more sanctions. But at this point, you've had so many rounds of sanctions that it's becoming very, very difficult for Iran to get anything in and out of the country, which is a big problem. In 2025, of course, Trump bombs the nuclear site and claims that all of the nuclear capabilities of Iran have been ruined forever. Turns out not to be true because now in 2026, Israel and Trump have armed rioters in Tehran, as we just discussed, in order to try to overthrow the Ayatollah, because apparently they're still scared that they have nuclear weapons. But as we have talked about today, hopefully you should know now that this has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. It has nothing to do with ideological differences. It's very simple. The United States and Europe want the oil in Iran. That's why they want to send us to war. And Israel wants to expand forever, and Iran is in their way. So they just want it to collapse. I don't think they care too much about the oil.
And now we have this very hypocritical kind of discourse going on here, right?
Yeah.
Where the whole Palestine movement is accused of being hypocrites for not standing with the protesters, while at the same time, well, these people, they pretend to be worried about Iranian civilians dying, but they were never worried about the Iranian civilians that have died over the past 40 years from sanctions.
Yeah. Or the ones who died under the Shah.
Or the ones who died under the Shah.
Yeah.
So the people who are saying this, they are the only ones that are actually being hypocritical, but they are very successful at dividing the movement over this subject.
Yeah, because it makes sense, right? That's why my go-to response is always, listen, it's none of my business.
Mhm.
Like, sure, if I was in Iran, or if I am talking to someone from Iran, I understand your struggle, right? Like, I understand what you're doing because it's the same things that I do here.
Mhm.
When I don't like something, we go out to protest, and when the police responds, we respond as well.
Yeah.
It's not fair to not have democracy, right? We need democracy, but just because I feel like that doesn't mean that my fascist state of baby killers and pedophiles have any solution to offer. If we get my government involved, all we're going to do is crash Iran further and take away more freedoms.
Yeah.
So both can be true at once. You know, down with the Western Empire, and when and when it comes to Iran, if the Iranian people want a new system, sure, I have nothing against. If I was Iranian, I think I would be on that side. but I'm not. So that's why it's not my business. What is my business is sending me to war, or someone that my fellow citizens to war. That's something that I have to stand against as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do also get the people who are like, well, it's not up to you living in a Western country as well to use Iran and Iranian people for your
Yeah.
anti-imperialist political takes, which is absolutely valid. However, what I don't want to participate in is feeding this narrative that is going on, that is forming the build-up for the justification for an invasion of Iran.
Exactly.
And that's what's going on, and especially if you look at these reports that are coming out that are saying there were 30,000 protesters killed in the first 2 days
Yeah.
of the protest, which is, and I mean, it's not all about the numbers, but in the end, the truth matters, right? So 30,000 is obviously not true. Not
Yeah.
in the first 2 days of the protest, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
It's completely impossible. Anyone quoting that or giving credibility to that should try to use their brain. Yeah, no, really. We saw that Israel doesn't hold back at all when bombing Gaza.
Yeah.
And it's the most densely populated place on the earth, and they didn't use guns, they used bombs, and even they didn't succeed in killing 30,000 people in 2 days.
No, that's insane.
That's insane. Impossible.
Insane. Yeah. I think like to your point, using the Iranians or not using them. I mean, what I'm using is history to make an argument, and the argument is the Ayatollah, the Islamic rule of the Ayatollah in Iran is bad for the people of Iran, and and therefore we should not have Western intervention, because it is Western intervention that created the necessity for an Ayatollah. So
and still the Shah would be worse than the Ayatollah.
Exactly.
Even. Yeah,
exactly. So I am agreeing with you on your diagnosis of the issue that the Ayatollah is bad, but where we differ
is the solution.
You think the solution is Western intervention. I think Western intervention created the Ayatollah. There would be no, just to give another example, there would be no Hamas in Gaza if there was no Israel.
Exactly.
Like, imagine also, we got stuck on that 1979 revolution and how the documents from the embassy proved black and white to the Iranian people that we are their enemies, right? And that would have taken a long time to get over, but we are still 46 years later today. After 46 years, imagine if Israel and the US and Europe had not once attacked Iran. If in those 46 years we had forgotten about Iran, we didn't even talk about them, then the young people today would wake up and go, wait a second, we have this theocrat in power, an Ayatollah, because he's the only one who can defend us from Israel and the US, because they found some papers 46 years ago. Who the fuck cares? They haven't even talked about us in 46 years. And naturally, it's a lot more likely that Iran would be a secular, democratic place right now.
Yeah, the Ayatollah would have been overthrown by the people of Iran maybe 10 or 20 years ago if we didn't insist on giving legitimacy and credibility to the Ayatollah for being the only ones who can protect them.
Yeah, if it wasn't, exactly, if we did not give the Ayatollah legitimacy, as you're saying, there would be no need for him. So we are the ones feeding this system. Why? Because we rely on it to get oil. And if we don't do it, then our capitalist industries die, and the capitalists sit at the top of our society and are the ruling class. So yeah, that's it for Iran. I'm gonna stop it there because I already did the whole.
Was it 40 minutes?
It was 1 hour and I don't know. I don't know. 1 hour? 1 hour exactly?
Okay.
Well,
decent. Oh my God. Yeah. It's near to impossible.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about Palestine next time.
Yeah.
But I like that we brought it up in a few ways.
Of course, because it remains like the exemplary case of all these things that you see elsewhere, right? So whenever you talk about these colonial things, you can relate it back to Palestine so easily because it's the
yeah, it's just like, oh, we need to destroy Gaza, and we need to do war against Palestinians because Hamas exists. You're like, wait a sec, or we need to block all entry of goods from Gaza, like create a complete blockade of everything because Hamas exists. But you guys were doing this before Hamas ever existed. Hamas came as a response, to Israel doing these things. Yeah, crazy how we never seem to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's still one person watching live. Thank
Yay!
you for making
Wasim,
it all
probably.
the way through. I hope it's Wasim. If it's you, send a message. Otherwise, we're gonna go offline here, I think. Yeah.
Sim was having a dinner with friends, so I don't know why he popped offline anyway. But
No, if I know Wasim, he came just to say a quick comment and then left. So the rest of you, thanks for joining live. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah.
That's it.
yeah,
Then see you in 2 weekends from now.
Good.
Hopefully on a Saturday.
and then let's do a good update on Gaza, Palestine as well. Let's
Yeah.
get some new info from people on the ground, because the getting info from the news is not so informative anymore, I guess.
Oh my
on
God!
this
Yeah,
subject.
no, it's crazy.
So
It's crazy what they're doing.
let's get some first-hand sources.
Yeah,
Would
yeah,
be nice.
we'll do that. That's anyways where this whole broadcast began.
Yeah.
Was around Palestine, and
Yeah.
now we're here. So yeah, let's definitely bring that. Is there any other big topic? Oh yeah, I wanted to maybe do America bad, like going. We kind of did it before,
Yeah.
but I really want to focus on why America is the worst nation of all.
Okay. Yeah.
Like build a concrete argument, But that would
That's gonna be a long episode.
That's gonna be a long fucking episode, man. Because we have.
That's gonna be part 1, part 2.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Because we have to start first with like their own colonization of
Right.
North America and the
Right.
genocide of
The-
indigenous
yeah.
people, and then we
Slavery.
start with the then we have slavery, and then we have like doing
Crow.
the genocide outside of their own borders,
Right.
promoting it around the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And
They've been involved in genocide for
Oh
like
my
since the start, for like more
goodness,
than
man.
100 years.
give it a rest.
continuously.
Just give it a rest. How much genocide do you need?
Don't you ever get tired from it? I mean, I can imagine it can be fun at the beginning, but at some point you must get sick of it.
Yeah, at some
Yeah.
point you must want to do something else.
Yeah.
How much genocide do these Americans really need?
Jesus Christ.
It's
Yeah.
just one after the other after the other. For what? For what? Okay. Last thing before we end here.
Mhm.
I've been speculating a lot about this and talking to some friends. What do they want? Whoever is running this show, with the Epstein, with the genocides, with the constant focus on more resources,
Mhm.
what for?
Well, I think I would draw the parallel between maybe some kind of themes that you would see in what's that series called? The one about the mafia from HBO, the famous one,
The Sopranos.
The Sopranos.
Yes.
And like in general in mafia kind of movies, right? That once this person, they reach the apex of power within this mafia structure,
Yeah.
and then they just keep going, but at some point they lose sense of why they are doing it themselves.
Yeah.
They don't have some kind of goal anymore. They reach the top, and it's just, this is the way it is. We have to maintain power. We have to keep going, but there's no real
The hunger dies. The hunger dies way
Yeah.
earlier, right?
yeah.
No, I can imagine. Oh, it would be sick to be a mafia boss. Blah blah. On day 1 of my journey to mafia boss, I would be excited.
Yeah.
On day 2000, on day 5,000.
Yeah, or like if you've been the Godfather for 10 years, and
Yeah.
like every time there's another person and they come, I have
There's
this
always some
conflict, can you
fucking
help me?
issue,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's catch this motherfucker and kill him. Let's
Yeah.
get it over with.
Yeah.
You will start to find it boring. It
Of
will be like an
It's a job.
everyday thing,
It's a
like
job.
a job,
Yeah.
and you become desensitized, and it's just, that's the way it is.
So you
I
think
it's
you think
that,
it's almost an addiction, right? So they wanted to at some point accumulate power and money, and
mhm.
now they don't know what else to do. Or
Well, addiction, maybe in some ways it would bring them some kind of joy or dopamine hit, and I think that even that's lacking. It's just
No, but
It's just the way how it goes.
but eventually addiction becomes that, right? Because
Yeah, true.
when you're taking drugs for the 1 millionth time, it's not that you get a big dopamine rush and you
Yeah.
feel super high.
Yeah, it's
You're-
just that
you're-
you feel uncomfortable if you don't, or you feel like
Exactly.
you lose something if
You
you
just
don't have
Take
it, or
it to
you don't do
continue
it.
feeling
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like if I don't
True.
continue this life I've built for myself, I don't know what else I would be.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep accumulating, even though I have nothing to do with these things I've accumulated.
And also just the anxiety of possibly losing it.
Right.
So not
Yeah.
gaining more, but just acting out of
The
anxiety.
fear of losing
the
it.
fear of losing it.
Especially with all the crimes I've committed to get to the top.
Yeah.
If I lose it now,
You get so paranoid.
you must get so paranoid.
Yeah.
And then still in all the photos, they're having the perfect Pax Americana life. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They're all so. I saw. Yeah, we talked about this a bit in the car on the way here, but it's really. I don't know what to do with these thoughts, but I saw a picture of Jeffrey Epstein sleeping
Mm-hmm.
on one of those beach.
Beach chairs,
Chairs,
kind
yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
And he's sleeping on his stomach with his face like lying sideways like this, and he looks like any old grandpa who's sweet asleep. Like the only times I've fallen asleep in that position in my life is when I've had way too much to eat and I'm fully satisfied and the sun is nice. And just to think that, these people aren't being eaten alive by their own thoughts, or
yeah.
that they can. I mean, are they faking it for the photo, or did they genuinely just enjoy themselves the whole way through
Yeah.
and not feel guilty? I don't know. Anyways, that's enough, Jeffrey Epstein. Hopefully, we don't have to bring him up for a while.
Well, he's dead.
Arrest
but-
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Yeah.
Yeah.